Welcome to Self Perfected.
Oh, Christine, there we go.
It worked. See, God's real.
Ready?
Let's do it.
See?
If you're just joining us, we're about to go in. Let's go. Get ready. This is for you. Who's ready to change? Dude, this is so crazy. So crazy.
It's gonna be stuck in my head till I hear the next song.
Right? I literally wake up with this playing in my head.
I never listened to these headphones yet either.
Oh, really? Oh, man. Okay, all right. So we've got an amazing podcast. You can stop sharing. We got an amazing podcast for you guys today. Not that all the other ones aren't amazing, but this is going to be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, listen with your headphones if you can.
Definitely. Yeah, you're going to
So you haven't been listening to these with headphones, Mitch?
Nope. I got iPhone 15, man. The new speaker is like lit. I'm listening to that. Plus, we got a little, big speaker.
Okay.
See, this is what I'm talking about, Drake. Like, you know, you gotta.
Yeah. Listen, Mitchell. We're going to put you on. Okay, we're going to put you on today. All right, we're going to teach you all
I'm about
the
to get
tricks,
enlightened.
all the tricks of the trade. Yeah,
this is gonna be like a reaction video of me getting a deep dive into becoming the.
I've got the Bose Q45s. Like, you know, I know they're not the highest end, but they're pretty nice headphones.
I got Bose headphones.
Oh, you got Bose.
Hey,
okay, all right.
We're Bose bros.
All right.
Oh.
Look at the Bose Bros. Look at the Bose Bros.
What do you got, Drake?
I forgot what they're called even, but they're really high quality.
Are you like really eclectic, or you're like?
A little bit. These have lasted me over a decade, legit over a decade. And the only thing that I lost was the cord. It had gold wire in it, and I lost it. But now I've got the
gold wire.
Cord. Yeah.
Is this like some advanced fucking underground shit when you got gold in your music?
They sold it as like, you know, when you got gold wiring, it conducts a lot better, all this stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm in.
Hey, I was listening to those structural resonance interviews with Vino. Now I see the appeal of gold.
Okay, yeah.
But you got to listen to that shit, dude.
That's right.
With your headphones.
So now Mitch has got gold chain, gold everything. Gold everything.
I just spent all my money on fucking gold chains.
I was listening to something. I'm trying to remember what it was, and it was like some random podcast. I don't remember who it was, but who I wouldn't expect to talk about it. And they were like, yeah, you know, apparently like there's stories where like the Anunnaki were having us like basically to mine gold, and like and they were trying to say like something in our reality was like the analogy to gold. I forget what they were talking about, but I'm like, dude, this is all going like mainstream. I mean, when I say mainstream is no longer what's on fucking CNN. That's not at all what I mean. I mean like what people are actually fucking talking about, listening to, like, you know, online.
Yeah.
The mainstream that's all.
Okay, so talking about mainstream, like that thing that you sent with the trans woman talking, that was super interesting because she was talking.
Which one was it?
She had like a shaved head, and she was like I guess detransitioned from male back to female, right? And she was just sharing her story of how in 2015 she was going to these trans support groups, and they were talking about like all these things that were going on. And she's like, I was in like a smaller town. It wasn't like I was in San Francisco or like in LA or anything like that. I was in
some random no-name town.
Yeah. And she's like, but we had a trans community there. It was still in California, you know. So, but she was talking about how even in that little community, like she went there and she said immediately the vibe that she got was like, oh, I can't say everything. I can't actually contest the things that people are saying here. Like one of the stories she told was this woman was like, I've been on T for a year and I got misgendered. And everybody knows once you've been on T for a year, you are a man now. And so it's like she's like
she couldn't even be like, well, actually, look at that makes sense. Like, you shouldn't expect that of people. Like,
right.
She couldn't even say anything like that of like
right.
any kind of common sense at all.
But even though she was trans and she was seeing it, she was like, that is fucking crazy. This is insane.
But she was kind of being honest with herself. Like she wasn't sharing it out loud, but yeah.
Right. And so the interesting thing about that is as she was sharing her story, she was just showing how like people coming into the group, like even like a little young 17-year-old. Did you watch this one, Mitch? Did you see that one? This little 17-year-old who was like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting this surgery, but I'm not sure because I've seen some things online that say like there could be a lot of complications, and I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure where I stand. And she said because of the whole vibe of the group, literally the group leader just ignored her. Like it was supposed to be a support group, but because it went against.
Like, but she also said like the moment the person said that, like the energy like sucked out of the room, like that, that feeling. And she said like the group leader just like literally just ignored the point and like moved on to something else, and like it wasn't addressed like any kind of doubt that anyone had or anything. Do you remember the one? Okay, is there other ones you wanted to share?
No. I was just like bringing up those points. What were you gonna say?
Well, do you remember the guy she talked about that came in who was just like, I think he was in the military and he was on medical leave because he was like having mental breakdown.
Yeah,
and it was nothing. Like, he was having an experience of nothing to do with trans. He was like having a mental breakdown. Like one of those guys who's just like hearing voices and shit like that. But then had been looking online and came across the trans stuff and was like, maybe that is maybe I need to look at that. So he went to the group, just dressed like a normal guy. He wasn't already trans. It was just like, I'm having this mental crisis and I found this thing. Let me go check this out.
I'm imagining like he showed up in his army fatigues.
Right. Like just looking like a normal guy, right? And she shows up and she said immediately after he told, and I found the trans stuff, she said the group leader immediately started referring to him as she, affirming him everything, even though like it clearly did not even apply yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He wasn't even.
What happened to him?
No, okay.
Well, I don't know. She was just sharing her experiences of being in the group and how the group leader was totally like, there was anything was affirmed. Everything was always affirmative. Nothing was negative. There was guys that would come in wearing like looking like hookers, like mini skirts, smeared on lipstick, bad wigs that were clearly just dudes dressing up like shitty hookers. Yeah. And they were immediately like, you're a woman, you're a real woman, and like no one could say anything negative.
Funny, is like
they're all wrong. They're totally instead of being like,
but I can see
maybe you should dress like a little bit more effectively.
Exactly. It's also really interesting.
She said there was a lot of cases where she could see it was clearly autogynephilia, like they were doing it to get off, like it wasn't actually this is who I am. I want to express myself. It's like I'm out dressing like a man in public or a woman in public because I'm kind of getting some sexual stimulation out of it, right? That is a phenomenon, right?
And the other thing that she shared was how like once you're in that community, they really push just being promiscuous. They like, oh no, you got to explore everything, you got to be open to everything, and the only way that you can get out of it, because otherwise if you don't, then they shame you and they're like, oh, you're being transphobic and like you're not actually for the trans community. But like the only way that you can get out of having sex with, like literally having to accept anyone who offers themselves to you, the only way you could get out of it was by saying that you were asexual. And she's like, that's why so many of these women come in and they're like, no, I'm asexual. Like I just don't participate in any sex at all. And that's
they just don't want to get anybody advancing.
Right. But even if you have like you're committed to a partner or anything like that, it's like, oh, you're being like a bigot now because you won't accept this guy who just like really wants to have sex with you, and like you're shaming this person. Like it becomes like you're the problem. And the other thing as well that was really crazy that she said was how there was a story of how someone had died and they were a male who would go to drag shows and dress up in drag, and like he was known in the drag community, but he was not trans or anything like that. It was really clear that he was just some guy, never even went to this support group at all. but they found they heard
Oh,
on
yeah.
the news that he had died.
He was a gay man who
Yeah.
liked to do drag. He was
Right.
not a trans person. That wasn't his thing. He wasn't identifying as trans. He was a
Right.
gay dude who did drag. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the group leader saw that
And
he was, that he had died, or they announced his death or whatever. And then she called the police department and like basically berated them and bullied them into saying like, oh my gosh, you didn't even get this guy's pronouns right and all this. And the police was like, no, we did. We he's a guy. We went and talked to the drag community, whatever. And like, no, we're gonna, have your badge for this, like shit like that. And then eventually the police department issued out an apology saying sorry for misgendering. And the woman
just to like appease these people.
yeah,
these
and the woman who was
activists.
telling the story was like, but I looked into this guy because it wasn't like he was somebody who showed up at our trans community,
No, it's like
support
they went
group
out
or
of their
anything. Like,
way
they
to
went
go
out of
find
their
a
way
point where
to-
they could,
yeah, and she's like, and then they were talking about it in the support community, and she's like, somebody had brought up that guy, and she's like, it's really weird because he wasn't trans. Like, we talk so much about like being offended of being misgendered, and you're supposed to ask the person first. Isn't that our whole thing? Like, somebody needs to ask you what your pronouns are, not just assume your pronouns. But we just went out of the way to assume this guy's pronouns. And she's like, everything immediately got shut down. But she said in the group, it was like this one group thing, but outside of the group, everyone could have these conversations. And one-on-one, she's like, people were much more reasonable, and they would tell you they disagreed, but they wouldn't say that in the whole group. And that was influencing people. And I just found that so fascinating because, Cam, you brought up that point of like, it just shows how the word support could be abused.
Yeah.
But also
because it's a support group, right? Yeah.
Right. But the major point here was what she was saying was all these things that you're seeing online where it's like, oh yeah, but that's like some fringe trans people saying that. That's just like, that's not how we all feel or whatever. She's like, this was happening in 2015. This was the norm then.
Wow.
This is not some fringe shit. This is not extremist shit. Like what you're seeing is actually the shit. This is what it is. And it's coming to light, but it's been this way for decades before. She's like, I was coming in, like, they would call somebody who wanted to be trans, like someone who like believed that there was two genders, and like, oh no, I like if they believe like, oh, I'm just in the wrong body and I need to be like a guy saying I need to be female, or a female saying like, no, I just need to be a guy. Like they would call that person true scum. That was the name that they had for them. True scum was the name. And she's like, that tells you the whole mentality of how they thought of it was like, oh no, but you're scum because you don't actually want everybody else to experience like that they could be, in the middle or in between, or like go back and forth, or they could be, part animal, whatever it was, right? Like they were really at that time, 2015, this is 10 years ago almost, right? They were at that time saying like, oh, if you just think there's just two genders, you're scum. You're true scum. And this is a person who wants to be trans, and they're calling them scum in the trans community. Isn't that fucking crazy?
That's like a system agent right there, like full on. Imagine leading a group like that anyway.
So yeah, I've been doing a little bit more research into this area of things, and remember we talked about Judith Butler a long time ago.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
And there was this thing I'd watched with her, and I'm assuming. I don't know.
What?
Excuse me, Judith. I said I'm assuming her. I don't know if her pronouns are her. I actually
True
don't.
Scum. Hey, that could be the name of this podcast episode.
Actually,
I like it.
Good.
It's a cool. I'm gonna type that into the AI prompting and see what happens. Okay, so but one of the people I've been listening to who's like kind of going into all these that Carlin, whatever her name is, right? Boroyenko or whatever. You remember talking about Drake? She was the one talking about that
anti-Semitism.
The one we talked about last time, right?
Yeah.
So she like goes on her live streams and watches like the entire lectures of these things, and then she's like commenting and stuff. And so one of the pieces I picked up on from her, and it kind of will tie into everything we're going to talk about today. And we've mentioned this in the past, but just not in this full context. I mean, if you really look at it, if you go back and watch every episode of our podcast, it's building over time this context to understand where everything is going. It's like we can't really just say it all in one shot. It's like you have to have all this context. But anyways, Remember when we had talked about Martine Rothblatt?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And the Transgender Manifesto, written like fucking knows, like 80s, 90s, whatever. And this was like the creator of Sirius satellite radio, right?
Yeah.
And in that book, he/she/they, I just want to be correct here. I just pick the correct one. Was writing that the whole point of trans was to get people to question their identity as biology. So like if you can separate your identity from the fact that you are biological. So you might think, well, it's just boy or girl, but you notice now it's like, oh, it's gender, right?
Yeah.
That's like saying I'm a police officer. Yeah, that's your job, but is that who you are?
Yeah.
But in that moment of being the police officer, don't they have to identify as that? They have to play the role. Like you ever seen like a police officer who's like a total pushover, or like a teacher that's a pushover?
Teacher, sure.
You've had teachers that were just like people could walk all over them, versus the teacher who played the role of like sit your fucking ass down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or get out of my class. You know what I mean? Like the
substitute teacher versus like the fucking hard ass. Yeah.
Yes. So it's an identity that you're taking on. It's not who you are. It's a vocabulary set. It's a whole thing, right? So separating your identity from what you actually physically are, which also there's a self component within that, which is not only your biology, but it's a component of it in terms of the context of the reality you're in. It's like separating that and being like, no, you are this identity. That's what you are. You're just an identity. And the purpose of that is to get people to go from I'm a human being in a physical human body to actually I'm a consciousness which could be put into a machine. And now you look at where everything's going with all of the AI, with the metaverse, with all these points, it's to support people to accept the fact that you can just be purely a digital existence, that your body is not relevant in the process. So if you go to like the transgender stuff, there was this one thing I was looking at where they were explaining that, because it's all based on Marxist theory.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole purpose of Marxist theory is to undermine capitalism. Now, if you actually read Marx, he wasn't per se trying to undermine things.
Right.
He was explaining how
showing where the progression of capitalism.
This is where it's at. Here's what happens next. It's inevitable kind of thing. But the activists are like, no, we need to make that happen so we can get from A to B to C, right?
Yeah.
So the transgender point in the theory of this critical gender, all the theory and all this stuff, is to essentially undermine 2 points. One, the nuclear family, disrupt that, and disrupt the point of there's 2 genders. There's a polarity, or there's a, what's the word I'm looking for?
Spectrum. That's it.
No, not spectrum. But what
duality?
do we call it? Yeah, not duality. What is it? What do they call it? I don't know why I'm blanking on that.
Bipolar?
Like the gender, the 2 genders. There's like a word for that. Anyway, I don't know why I can't think.
Gender norms, basically. Like
binary.
Like,
binary. I'm looking for the word binary. Yeah. I was like duality, polarity. Yeah, that there's that gender, that sex, but then it's now gender is binary, right? And then, like you said, it's a spectrum, actually, right? So those 2 points, the gender binary or the sex binary, and the nuclear family, because how do you have a family unless you have the binary sexes together?
Right.
And then the stability of the family is the man and the woman, right?
Yeah.
Creating the family together. Right. And then all the points that go in. And we talked about a lot of why that is a good point.
Because the kid has the DNA from both parents. Like that's the part where
has the DNA, male and female, women and men are different. They have different points. It's like saying you can have it's like saying it's like up and down.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's like water and air, the sun and earth. You can't have one without the other. When you take one away, you have problems in the other. That doesn't mean that the thing can't be dysfunctional in itself, but that's not a reason to get rid of it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, but my point is, the whole point of all this gender stuff is to disrupt the nuclear family and to disrupt the gender binary, because those 2 things combined are the basic unit that reproduces the capitalist system.
Which is insane because
Say that again. Just make that really clear.
The nuclear family, along with it, which is upheld by the gender binary, right? The sex binary, is the basic unit of the capitalist system because it's where the worker is created. I mean, a perfect example of this, and I haven't like studied all their theory about how they go from here to there, but this is the point I'm picking up on. But I'm thinking an example of that is like, imagine it's the 50s, right? You got a good paying job. Mom stays at home. You have kids. They go to school. They go to college. They get the good paying job. And it keeps the system functioning.
yeah.
And so the question is cause and effect. Which one causes the other thing to happen? But as we move, as our human culture / society / really just the mind becomes more evident and manifests more in reality, you see these things breaking down to the point where when they survey Gen Z or Gen Alpha, they see no fucking real purpose.
Dude.
The suicide rates. So why is the transgender stuff? They're like, but look, transgender must be real because look at how many people are identifying as it as we release our stigma to it.
Right.
More people are identifying. So they must have been that way always. We just had these stigmas. And it's like, no, actually, it's like, it'd be like saying, it's like if you go and shit on their floor and you never clean it up and there's just literal shit everywhere, you're going to get sick, right?
Yeah.
And then trying to argue that just being sick obviously was the natural state. Yeah. Because when you took off these restrictive rules of cleaning things up, look, you're sick. So it's like this arguing that it's natural when it's actually just now you're taking the brakes off. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but if you look big picture, the system doesn't care. Just like you would think, guys, war is a terrible thing. Why should we have it? The system doesn't see it that way.
Right.
The system is like, no, it creates energy. What the fuck? Like, I don't care if you're creating it through sex, porn, arguing, pursuing art, war. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And how does war create energy? In the one sense, it's a lot of conflict, right? And if you could channel that energy into some device that powers you, that gives you something, right? Then that's all for the better for you. But also, you create so much stuff. I mean, the reality of it is you have a money supply, you print money, it creates stuff, right? And then you can't print any more money. So what do? You got to bring in the money supply, but you can't create any more shit. So what do? You fucking destroy everything.
Let me tell you about that, because that's really interesting. As far as I was just looking at this point, how let's say our parents were told an idea of what a millionaire is, right? When
remember
they were
show,
kids.
Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, I remember that. Right?
That is.
Yeah.
Right? Answer these random trivia questions and you could.
Yeah.
Hey, but I mean, it was vocabulary, wasn't it? Like
it was.
If you knew the answers to the questions, you know.
But check it out. Our parents, when they were little kids, were told something of told an idea of what a millionaire is. And then by the time they become adults, and maybe they've accumulated $1 million, right? In like a Roth IRA or something like that, right? They've accumulated $1 million. By the time they are adults, the fucking inflation, the devaluing of their currency is so much. It's like $1 million is nothing, but they've worked their entire lives to become a millionaire. And now they're a millionaire. And then it's like, it's worth like less than $10,000 of, when they were.
It's like the goal you were impulsed to create, which takes time. By the time you get it, it's not relevant anymore. It only made sense because it was relevant at the time that they told you it was a valuable goal.
Right.
But by the time you actually get there, it's like, well, I'm actually still fucked.
Right. And so in order to be like a millionaire, even 10 years ago, like what was considered a millionaire, like you'd have to be making $50 million in order to so it's the goalpost moved. But I just wanted to go back to this point of what you had said about how Martine Rothblatt talking about, the whole idea with transgender ideology is to remove biology from your identity. And so you just identify with your identity. It's so crazy because people are already doing that as far as identifying with this personality that they have, and so it's like, it's really, that's why it's so hard for a lot of people to change, is because they're looking at, but then I have to give up this, and that's who I am. That's
my memories.
Exactly. And it's so interesting because parents will tell their kids all the time, and I see this all the time. You don't want to be like those people. We're not like those people. Those people are this, that, whatever. And those people could be whomever. You know, it could be people who are wealthy, people who are, you know, whatever it is, people who are just different in some regard. It's really just anti-Semitism, right? No, but they'll say we're not like those people because we have these values. We are like this. We don't portray ourselves as this. And then when you try to step out of whatever identity it is that your parents created for you, you feel like you're being disingenuous. You feel like you're lying, like, oh, I'm being an imposter. That's why so many people have that imposter syndrome, because they've identified with whatever the identity is that's keeping them there where they are right now. And they cannot see past that identity or let go of that identity for even just long enough to get the results over here, right? Or even if they do, they go right back.
This is the basic point that we're facing. And this is our process. This is the whole point of this process, is to face the point of, are we as humans special and superior to all life, and we're special and we're chosen by God and we are allowed to dominate and abuse? Or are we actually equal to all life, and therefore responsibilities and privilege come in our form as a human being? Privileges come with that, right? Yeah. Like, we get to enjoy sex more than a cow does, right? Because our bodies are set up differently. We get to enjoy painting. Cows don't. Sucks to be a cow. You never get to enjoy the pleasures of painting. But their form is less than ours. Not fundamentally, but in a way it's more restrictive. They can't do all those things themselves. They can't feed themselves.
Right.
They require us to support them, and we don't see it that way. You're like, no, you're just a thing for me to use. It's like, if a man is in a relationship with a woman, he just sees her as like a sex object and make my dinner, and he doesn't see it as like, you're my equal. We are like, oh, that's terrible, which it is, but we don't see all life that way. And so this is the process we're now in the process of facing, is like this reality. And, you know, the whole anti-Semitism thing, when you look at the essence of what like Judaism is it's that point. It's like, no, I'm special. I'm chosen by God, me and my people. But what's interesting about it, because you're like, well, that's why Christianity's better, right? No, because it's actually the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I was looking at this point, dude, like, think about this. Christians are in a battle with the Jews because the Christians are like, because the Jews are like, we don't accept that the Savior has already come.
Right.
The Messiah. The Christians are like, no, he already is here. I accept him.
Yeah.
Okay, where is he? Well, he's still coming back.
Right.
So you both agree the Messiah is still coming.
Yeah.
Well, no, his name's Jesus. No, that's not the one. It's a different guy. We'll know when he's here. The Christians are like, no, Jesus is coming back. How will you know? Well, because of this and this. Like, isn't it like the same shit that they're saying? Like, what? You guys are literally the same thing.
I was literally having a conversation about this exact point with someone yesterday, where I was telling them, like, because they had brought up some point of like, you know, it's the end times and all this, and I was like, and they said something about like all religions will be the same. I'm like, well, all religions are the same already. They're exactly the same.
We're already in the end times right now.
Yeah. But like, they were saying like, no, but religions are different, but like all the other ones are the same. I'm like, which one are you saying is different? He's like, Christianity. I'm like, no, they're all the same. They've all become this conglomeration of, regardless of what God you say you worship or whatever, at the end of the day, they're all the same thing, where it's all just be tolerant, accept all this liberalism. You know, there are literally pastors down the street from here that are like gay or trans or whatever. The Pope just said in the Vatican, like, oh yeah, this gay marriage, I condone it. Yeah,
they're blessing gay marriage. Now, it's interesting though, if you study Christianity, unless you take one specific phrase, that condemns it, but that also condemns other things that you have no problem doing. Like, do Christians eat bacon? Do they eat pork? Exactly. But doesn't it say not to do that? Well, but that was the thing there. It's like, maybe the whole thing about against homosexuality was the same thing too. Like, why are you assuming? Like, wait, does God tell you, or do you fucking decide? Who decides?
That's the
so
point. I was telling this guy because I was like telling him about like all the anti-Semitism laws, which I want to get into, right? But I was telling him about all the anti-Semitism laws that are being passed now. And he was like, yeah, but like, and I was telling him about like the whole Ben Shapiro thing with Candace Owens. And he's like, yeah, but is Ben Shapiro like a real Jew? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, because there are like Jews who pretend to be Jews and they're giving all the other Jews a bad name. And then there's like real Jews. And I'm like, well, how would you know which one he is? Because he could be giving them a bad name and he could be real too, you know?
There's a fallacy. I think it's called like the true Scotsman fallacy or something. I think that's what it's called. You ever heard about that? And it's it just encapsulates this point where it's like, here, I'm going to look it up actually because I want to do it justice. True Scotsman fallacy. No true Scotsman fallacy. It's the attempt to defend a generalization by denying the validity of any counterexamples given. So if you're like, let me see if I can find a good one. Let me see if there's an example. Person A, no Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge, right? Person B, but my uncle Angus, he's a Scotsman. He puts sugar on his porridge. Person A, but no true Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. You know, it's like, a real man doesn't wear dresses. It's like, well, but Harry Styles is literally a man. Like, he's got a dick. He's got XY chromosomes. Like, you know, he's got muscles. Like, what are you talking about? Well, no true man wears nose dresses. Like, well, so how do you know when it is or isn't? You can always then take a point and be like, well, that's not the real thing.
Right. Right. We've been getting a lot of comments on this one, just so you guys know. But I'll drop some of them for you.
Which part?
On all this parts.
On all this parts.
All this parts.
Parts unknown.
Yeah.
It's like Drake, when you're talking to that guy, the image that came up in my mind was when we were watching those videos of Gaza being blown up, and like that's everyone's brick wall right now.
Oh no, actually, this is a perfect example, dude. Like the Holocaust, right? Terrible genocide, yeah? Okay. Gaza, genocide? No, that's not a true genocide. Like, what? What are you fucking talking about?
There you go. Right. No, it's crazy because Cam, I sent you those videos, or no, you sent me the videos of, see, I don't even know who's sending who videos anymore, but the videos of all the Israelis where they're asking like, oh, is this like, when do you know, how do you know when the Messiah comes? And they're like, wait, is this a trick question to get me to like believe in Jesus? Like, no. I just really want to hear your genuine, opinion on this. And they all had different answers, right? They all had different answers. They're all like saying like, oh, it's when this happens. But then at the same time, they're all saying like, but then when it happens, we'll all know. We'll all know because, and literally the person I was talking to yesterday is not even Jewish. He's like, oh yeah, no, we'll just all know when it happens because, but only certain people will hear it. Only certain people will hear it. And then that's how we'll know like, oh, okay. This is when, this is like only certain people will hear it because they're the true followers. I'm like, okay, so how do you know you're going to hear it? Oh, because I'm a true follower. Not everybody else is going to agree. Like, how are you going to know? And there's so many people.
But when you say we'll all know, but aren't the Christians like, yeah, we can see it. Why can't you see it?
Right.
So they know, but they're like, no, that's not it. We'll know though. It's like, but they know.
And so that's called.
And why don't you know? It's like, no, but I'll know. But everyone will know. But they think they know. So how do you? So, okay. It's obvious the whole that's why when I was like 7 fucking years old, I'm sitting in my bed and I'm like, clearly religion is not real because no religion is real because there's more than one. Like, and how would you possibly know? Because it's like if you talk to a Christian, they're like, well, I had this experience. Jesus came to me and in my time of need. And you're like, dude, a Jew can say I'll talk to a Jew and they'll have the same experience about God. Talk to a Muslim, they'll have the same experience about Allah. Talk to a Buddhist, they'll have the same experience about Buddha. Talk to anybody, a spiritual person, they had the experience where the light came to them, like, and it will be convincing. So which one of those is delusional? Because you can't go, well, I had this experience. Do you understand that the reality you are seeing in front of your fucking eyes right now is a holographic hallucinatory projection? Like, do you understand how the mechanics of your body works? Do you think that the thing you're seeing in front of you is actually the thing itself?
Right. Am
I saying this cup doesn't exist? No, but I'm saying the picture you're seeing, how do I know that is true?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now. Okay. Are you guys looking at it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Really? You're in the
Yeah.
room with me?
No, I'm not in the room with you. I'm seeing an image of
seeing
you
it.
holding it. Yeah.
You know, through the.
But if you were in the room, you'd be over there and you'd see it from this angle.
Right.
And someone else, it's got different perspectives based on where you're at. Like your mind, the easiest way to kind of give someone the aha, I think, if you really let it sink in, is when you think about a mirror. What is a mirror? Like it's like, but we kind of take it for granted.
Yeah.
It's like, look at your wall right now. Okay. Look at a blank wall. Do you see your reflection there?
No, I don't.
Well, how come when you put a mirror there, you see your reflection? You're just looking at the wall. You're just looking at a piece of fucking material on the wall. Why are you seeing your reflection?
Yeah.
Because the light that's in the around you is bouncing off your face.
Yeah.
It's hitting that mirror.
Yeah.
It's coming back to your eyeballs.
Yeah.
And your brain goes, okay, I'm receiving this information and I'm calculating the angles at which it is coming from. And according to the angles at which it's coming in, this image is right there.
Yeah.
In other words, your brain thinks your face is right there because it's being tricked by the angle at which it's coming in. And I'm just saying that to show mirrors prove that what you're seeing all around you is not the actual thing itself. I'm not saying that there isn't a physical reality. I'm saying we are perceiving it. I mean, this is not new information. Like, go fucking read like Kant. Like, they were trying to understand how the fuck do we perceive reality, because we can only perceive it through our senses. How do we know what's real or what's not real? I'm not arguing it's not real, but there was a point I was trying to make why I brought this up. Because you're basing if God is real to you based on an experience you had.
Yes. Okay.
But a schizophrenic person, go and watch you. It's very enlightening to go on YouTube and watch people describing their schizophrenic experiences, and more people doing it. And it'll be like a guy sitting with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend's like, "Okay, so are you having an experience right now?" He's like, "Yes." She's like, "What are you seeing?" He's like, "There's a demon right there." She's like, "Where is it?" "On the couch. It's right there, and it's looking at us." And she's like, "Is it doing anything?" "No, he's just looking." Describe it, and it's like, they're seeing it just as real as they're seeing the girlfriend.
Wow.
And it's not real.
Yeah.
Now you can say maybe it is real. I don't know. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like and some people experience schizophrenia that they hear a voice. It's a very powerful voice. It's not their voice, and it's God talking to them. And it's like, hey, you need to go to the bus station, and under the seat of the bus station, there's a book. You need to get that book. And they go and they find this book, and inside they start reading it, and it's telling them the truth about reality.
Dude. Okay.
And it's like written on the pages, but literally no one else can see it. It wasn't real. It was a hallucination.
So that's super interesting, because for one, I remember we talked about like a couple weeks ago of this girl who was taking these meds for her depression. And on these meds, she starts seeing someone in the room. She sees a little girl in the room, and she's telling her parents, and her parents are like, "There's no one else in the room. Okay. But is this like having an effect on you?" She's like, "No, I'm just telling you what I see." And they're like, "Maybe it's just a side effect of the drugs, and maybe it'll go away soon or whatever." And then it doesn't go away, but instead it progresses into, she's like, "Hey, the little girl just touched me and told me to come into the kitchen with her." And she'd given this little girl a name, gave her a name, Alice. She's like, "Alice just touched me and told me to come into the kitchen with her, grab a knife, and hurt myself." And the parents are like, "Okay, now we're..."
She's like, "All right, Alice, you're getting the fuck out the house now. We were tolerating you before, bitch. Like, you gotta get out."
Alice.
There's the other part.
She's like, "Where is she? Where is she? Did I get her? Did I get it? Where is she? Where is she?" Like swinging like a sword around, like, "Oh, get her."
but also, I've had the experience.
She's on the ceiling, mama.
Of like going to a festival, consuming some stuff that somebody gave me, and then having an experience where, like, you know how you're saying, like, go open this book and all this, somebody bringing me a book, literally I open it, I'm looking through the pages, and I'm like, this is the book. This is the book that's supposed to tell me the thing. Oh my God, I found the book. Here it is. And then like, I'm now carrying this book around me. Like, I was literally carrying this book around.
What book is it? What book is it?
It was Be Here Now, right?
Oh,
and
dude,
it's
so
like
lame.
Purposely constructed to do this, right?
Yeah.
but like you're carrying.
It's like when you listen to like psychedelic music and you're like, dude, this stuff is so trippy, especially if you're on mushrooms. It's like, yeah, someone made it that way so that when you take mushrooms, you will experience it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So
so someone created a fucking religious book called the Bible, et cetera, whatever, because they knew when you're searching for a certain type of experience, it will become the point that creates that within you. So it's like literally, it's like Pink Floyd making trippy ass music, and you're like, dude, this is like telling me stuff, you know? And you're like, no, you're just tripping out on this really well crafted art. That's what the Bible is. That's what all this shit is.
And here's the like litmus test for it. Okay, you believe in your holy book is the holy book that the other group has, whether what you believe is the Quran or what you believe is the Bible or what you believe is the Torah or what you believe is, the Bhagavad, I don't even know how to pronounce it. You know what I'm talking about.
Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, right. Or whatever it is. Okay, you believe in that thing. Is everyone else's holy book right? And everybody will tell you, no, they're wrong. They're like,
or you get the person who says they all contain truths, and I'm like,
right.
If you can discern the fact that there's truths in all of them, why do you even need one?
Right.
Because clearly you can recognize, you already know it. Like you already know that if you're able to make that discernment.
And so the thing being, it's like they're seeing theirs and they go, well, theirs is just, I don't know, they're just wrong. Or they believe the wrong thing. They were misled. Like, so you can say that so clearly about them. What about yours? Because they're saying the same thing about you. Oh, well, no, not my experience.
That's why I brought the point of the personal experience, because yes, but when I do study this, I have this personal experience that proved to me it was right. And when you study Destiny, see, the thing is,
they're having that too, is what I'm saying, right? It's like,
what?
No, we're agreeing on the same point, but like, what I'm saying is the other religions, they're having
that was my point. They're also doing that too. And you're like, well, they're probably hallucinating. It's like, there's no self-honesty. One of the points when I started studying Destiny is it supported me to see this even more clearly of like, your mind is three-dimensional imagery. In fact, there's a great Bernard audio. I'm sure we could throw it in the chat or put it under the comments or something. I think it's just called The Mind is Three-Dimensional Imagery. And it's in itself, it's nothing new what he's saying. It's when you listen, it's obvious common sense, but he's giving you some context. And I noticed someone you're because Drake's been putting in our chat here, like people's comments and stuff.
Yeah.
Someone wrote something, and I don't know the context of when they said this, but it said something about there are credible signs to look out for, right? So I just want to address that real quick, because on the surface, you could be like, okay, but aren't you falling into the same trap by studying Destiny? Like, aren't you saying all religions are bullshit? So why are you following this religion of Destiny? And this is the point to really look at is there's no experience where something happened to me that I'm going, this is valid because of that experience. Okay, first of all. So we're not justifying any of it through that means. Second of all, we're not claiming that it is a special thing given to us by any god or person, even Bernard. In the sense of he had the truth, only he knew it. He was the right. It was more a point. All we're saying is it's common sense, actually. So, well, then why do you need Bernard? You don't per se. The problem is, are you going to be self-honest?
Yeah.
And so you can either say yes or no, and you can either be self-honest or not. I'm not here to say you can't, and that's why you need Bernard. I'm saying there is so much deception within us that's been programmed in as a habit. Which is why it's harder for an older person to change if they're starting when they're 50 versus if you're 15, or if you start off this way being supported effectively as a child.
I'll give you an example because I was listening to this audio where this guy was saying like, I know I'm not going to be self-honest. Like it's hard for me to be self-honest. And it was like a really simple point of like, you know, when you've had the experience, like for a guy, when they're like, oh, I'm not going to look at porn or whatever. And then they're like, oh, but I just can't, I need it or whatever. It's like, and then you fall within that point or whatever. Or you're talking to somebody and you can see the point where like, I should step up and say this or support them with this, but then you don't want to be self-honest about the point. And you're like, but it just feel better if I don't do that. If I cave in here or whatever. And it's like those points there, you can see where you're not being self-honest, where you know you could make a decision when you're not in that moment, when you're not feeling that energy. You can make the decision of, no, this is how I want to be. This is actually what I see. It makes sense. This is what's best. This is what I want to create with my life. But then when you're in that moment, you kind of cave and you're not honest with yourself, and you're like, oh, but I can't live without it. I need this, all that sort of stuff. And it's like, okay, so you experienced that, which just shows you the level with which you need support to be self-honest, or in support, I mean, like how we were talking about support earlier. It's not like, oh, just whatever, it's all good, it's okay, whatever, but rather like support of a community who's actually going to be there and like, hey, you're on your bullshit again. You gotta cut that shit out. Like we just had
so
yeah.
Hold on. So here's the point I want to bring all that together with. It's like, what is the starting point of the information? Because all religious points, all spiritual points are there to keep you trapped in your mind and let the system just carry itself out. That is the purpose. Okay. So it's not about, is this a religion? Is that not a religion? Is destiny a religion or not? It's irrelevant. The point is, what is the starting point of it and what is the point of it? Because the starting point is the end point. So in other words, what's the purpose of Christianity? Fundamentally, the purpose of it is that you accept a savior that is ultimately responsible to forgive you, and that through doing that, the conditions of heaven will be given to you by this higher power. That is the basis of all religion. If you look at atheism, it's that there is no, quote, higher power, but we're just evolving in some way and getting better and better and better and better. But it's not questioning at all the system as it is.
Yeah.
When you break the core down, if you take all of the stuff in Destiny that you can't really verify with your own eyes, like you're like, okay, well, how do I know this thing that the Atlanteans was real? Because I can't verify that. If you take all that stuff out for a moment and you just look at what's the core point. As human beings, we're like the final point where we are the ones creating our reality here on Earth through systems, through technology, and through our relationships and how we define things. And we are not considering what is best for all life. We are very limited, believing that the only thing that really matters is humanity, but then really myself, and really just me as my ego, as searching for energy. And we don't realize that actually within that whole point, we don't exist. We're actually just submitting ourselves down to a point to be a slave to literally a machine-like system that is just abusing us, and we're allowing it, and we are it at the same time because we're accepting and allowing it.
Can I give a really good example here? Okay. So specifically, like we are creating this, like you're saying, we're creating this in our reality. Really good example is the whole red heifer thing, right? The whole red heifer thing that is going on in Israel.
You have to give context. I don't think most people know.
Okay, sure.
I'll be right back.
So basically, the whole concept behind this is CBS actually just did a really good short news report on this. It's like 5.5 minutes long or something like that, right? And their report on this was, hey, we're going into Israel because there are some red heifers that are being, maintained at an undisclosed location. And part of the story with these red heifers is that in their religious texts, the story is that when these pure red heifers are brought in to Israel and sacrificed at an altar, etc., then it will pave the way for the Temple of Jerusalem to be rebuilt. And also, it'll pave the way for the Messiah to return. And so these are all the signs. And so they're literally, they purchased these red heifers from Texas, brought them into Israel, and they're like raising them in this very specific way without blemish, all this stuff to bring forth the prophecy. They're like, yeah, no, we're we're trying to bring forth the prophecy.
Why wouldn't you if you believe that was the way to do it?
Of course. And as a disclaimer, not all Jews believe this, not all Israelis are in agreement with this as well. But they're like, but the prophecy has to be fulfilled, right?
The people who actually are like reading the book and actually fulfilling it.
Yes.
Like not the ones who have no idea and they're just like, yeah, I'm just living my life. Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Muslims know about this, right? And here's why it's relevant. Here's why it's relevant. Because they have an altar. The way their altar is angled, you can see the site for where the Temple of Jerusalem is supposed to be, right? Built on that site is one of the biggest, largest, like the most esteemed mosques of Islam.
Like in your face.
Like right there on that site, right? And it's like, it's got the gold dome. It's that one, right? And basically they're like, okay, so we're going to sacrifice these cows here, these heifers here, so that we can rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem. And it's funny because they were interviewing somebody. It's not really funny, but they were interviewing someone and asking her, hey, there's a really big, like prominent mosque here on this site. And, what about that? And she's like, well, it's got to go. It's got to go. It's like really just like offhand, like, yeah, I mean, it's got to go.
I feel like we know there's a history there of them just disregarding Arab properties, like when it suits them.
Like, what are you implying with that?
Is this all in like the actual war zone? I mean, I don't like have a map in front of me, but this is
in Jerusalem, right?
This is in Jerusalem.
Okay.
In Jerusalem.
Yeah, not in Gaza. This is Jerusalem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the capital.
So,
where we moved our embassy to, by the way.
Right.
We're like, we want to get a front row receipt for this Armageddon coming, guys.
There we go. And so, like, it was interesting because the reporters, like, you realize that there's going to be like some Muslims who are going to take offense to that, right? And she's like, don't care, like that, like this is the prophecy. And so it was interesting because then he went and interviewed.
It's like the trans thing, advance the agenda at all costs.
Yeah. So then he interviewed some prominent Islamic leader, and they're like, hey, this is really upsetting. This is part of the reason why Hamas attacked. This is what he was saying. Part of the reason is because of this whole thing. Like, we know that there were red heifers brought in. We know the purpose for it, and it's kind of offensive that it's basically like you're pointing guns at us. Essentially, is the vibe that he was giving off. He's like, there are 2 billion Muslims. That's what he was saying. Like, there are 2 billion. Like, you're not just offending one small group. This is going to be a major offense, whatever it takes place with this. And so I'm bringing all this
up.
It's
like we're literally in 500 BC. You read the books where they're like, and then they fought the war and destroyed the temple, and it just seems so archaic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's like, no, we're literally doing that right now, 2024.
But here's the major point. Exactly to what Cam was saying. We're literally just taking this text and running the program because people believe what they've read here, and they're like, okay, gotta make this happen. Okay, so now let's make it happen as exactly as it says in this text. Meanwhile, it's like, okay, could that text have been manipulated by chance?
If your cousin came to you and he was like, hey, I found this book under the bus station, and like it's telling me to like I have to go and do this mission, and so you'd be like, all right, buddy, have you been taking your meds or not? But if a whole group of people claim it's their religion and it's by God, then it's like, well, we got to respect that.
Right.
But if the other guy says, well, it's my religion, you'd be like, no, you're crazy.
Right.
Like, how do you know? Like, I mean,
discern?
didn't they kill Jesus because they were like, you're crazy?
Right.
Okay. Did you know the population in the world of how many Muslims there are to how many Jews? This is very interesting.
Oh. Give us the number for the Jews.
Okay. Well, so this is according to 2010. 14 million Jews to 1.6 billion Muslims.
Wow.
They're poking the bear with that one.
But can you see how this impulsing of minority rights, the minority, we have to protect
David
the
versus
minority.
Goliath. I mean, isn't that a fucking story of the Jewish people?
It's not just that. It's like, okay, there's this story that goes out. People believe this story, and they uphold this story more than they uphold actual, like what is best. Because they're not even considering. They're not even considering.
Not part of the pre-programmed design best for all.
And you can't go, well, we can never know how can you always know what's best? I'm like, okay, but let's just look at the things that are going on and ask ourselves, is that best?
Like,
Like,
okay,
if I run over a
Not
child
that
with my
fucking hard.
car, is that best or not? Well, that's not best. But I thought you couldn't determine what's best. Like, you
Right.
can actually. Like,
Right.
if you're self-honest, you can determine if something is
and
best or
you're
not.
seeing how they're like antagonizing this point. Like, okay, that you can clearly see, anybody can clearly see, all right, that is very antagonistic. You're purposely saying we're going to do this to destroy this so that we can, like, and maybe they're saying like we're not personally going to destroy it, but we're bringing forth, we're ready for the destruction of that thing, so that, and it's like, okay, why does it have to be that way? Why can't it be a conversation of like, hey, listen, why do you want this thing to happen in the first place? To bring forth the Messiah. Okay, why is that important? So that, you know, we can enter the promised land or whatever it is, you know, whatever the point is. It's like, okay, what is there in the promised land? Like, what is it you're trying to make happen? Bringing heaven on earth, or you know, entering God's kingdom, or whatever it is. Okay, let's do that. But no, you got to do these steps first. You got to slaughter this person.
We as humans can't physically do that. And it's like, but you are doing all the other steps of this thing that you like that'd be like, how do you build a house? Well, first you have to cut down some grass. You can take that grass, you got to boil it up. You got to take that liquid, you got to pour it over some rocks. And you're like, hold on, how is this going to get you a house? Whoa. And then you're like, well, at a certain point, magically the house will appear. And I'm like, what if we just got some lumber, you know, created the foundation, you know, like all the steps. And they're like, oh, no, we couldn't do that. But you can do this other, you can put all this effort into all this thing that you can't even see how it actually, like, that's what I always say, like, when people believe in like the crucifixion and the resurrection and how that absolves you of sin, I'm like, where's the mechanism? How does that actually mechanically do it?
It's a broken brick wall of understanding.
Yeah.
100%.
Mega brick walls all fucked up. It looks like those drone videos of Gaza. Everyone's brick wall is fucking smoldering up.
And that's the point I was trying to make about the destiny point of like, well, how is it not another religion? It's like, listen to the point of the starting point of it. And it's like, if you believe there's a core point of truth in every religion, let's take that together. Let's recognize it and take it and then be like, why not implement this here on earth now? But that will not be possible if everybody speaks a different language.
So here's,
and just be clear, when I say different language, you might think I just mean, oh, everyone speaks English. Regardless of that point, is a Jew and a Muslim and a Christian, even if they all speak English, are they speaking the same language?
No, definitely not.
That's what I mean, is like, we're not on the same page here. We're like, we believe the destiny of reality of the universe. There's like 10 different ways. That'd be like thinking it'd be like if you're in a car with somebody and you all think there's 10 different ways to drive to Disney World.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there may be one route there, one route here, but the question is, are there some routes that ain't going to go there?
100%.
And I'm telling you, all the religious routes ain't going to go to heaven. You know, like, because even everyone subconsciously at least recognizes it's not going to happen on this physical earth. Mm-hmm. So that alone invalidates it.
Yeah. Okay. Because like you're thinking like it's going to have to be somewhere else in some other dimension, or, you know, when you die or whatever.
Can we move into the discussion we were going to have, like where you could tell that story we had talked about? Yeah. Because I think also I just realized too a cool point of how, because you might say, well, like, oh, it's the atheists, get rid of God. It's all about science, technology. And what I really want to show is that the science and technology point is you're praying to a different kind of God, hoping that through evolution, and then the technology is like sort of the, because that people believe like, okay, we've reached the ultimate of human biology evolution. It's going to take a million years for this thing to go to any other new level. The next level of accelerating evolution is technology, right? Yeah. But I want to show later that is actually just praying to another God. And you believe that is the God that's going to bless you somehow. And you know it because the fucking Kurzweils and all these guys who believe in the digital immortality, they believe that it's not in this physical realm. It's in the digital cloud consciousness realm that you're going to get the heaven reward. It's not going to be in this physical fucking reality directly. It's not going to be in this. It's going to be in a digital fucking world of virtual world. So we can move towards that. Yeah.
Before we get into that, what were you going to say, Mitch?
Well, there's a really cool point I was looking at this morning. I'm listening to quite a few things on Equap. They're talking about the death and rebirth cycle. And so like back to what Cam is saying about us all speaking the same language, a lot of us have really fucked up definition of death and of birth and rebirth. And death is something that we don't necessarily need to experience. Like, you don't have to lose your body to figure this shit out. But a death is like when you're doing your process of letting go of your characters, letting go of your beliefs, letting go of what you think is here. You can actually utilize this dying and rebirth cycle. That's the process. Because yeah, in this current world as is, we're not gonna fucking create heaven on earth because there's too much shit. But it has to die, but not from like a we have to blow ourselves up. It's more like within yourself, you have to see what parts are no longer valid and like prune it away. And then the rebirth is like us is here.
See, that was well said. That was well said.
Yeah,
I don't know, how many people
put that in a fucking Suno song.
Get that, but yeah, it was really.
But this is a result of you developing your vocabulary, doing this process, getting to that point of being able to see something, the simplicity of that. Whereas somebody else who still has a fucked up brick wall on those words will spiritualize it. And be like, death means I give up all of my bad habits and I just accept Jesus into my heart. And it's like, that's not real. Right. That's an imaginary version of what Mitch just said.
Yes. Okay. So I wanted to move towards what we're really going to talk about here. I just wanted to bring up the point of like, Facebook's in a lawsuit right now. That's been like a decades long, right? Of they're supposedly sending your DMs, your DMs, they're letting Netflix see your DMs. Now, what Facebook contends is that they say, well, no, we have a portal with Netflix that when you send through Netflix, you send, hey, this is the movie that I'm watching. Netflix can see that. You can set because you can send to your friends, hey, I'm watching this movie through Netflix, and Netflix can see.
They're not just giving you all of your DM information, but they're giving you some information from it.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And Netflix is saying like, and then we use that information to kind of curate a better algorithm for you.
I love it. Yeah. Curate a better customer experience. You're like, exactly. Oh, wow, you just care about me.
Yeah, exactly. And so what people are thinking is like, oh, but maybe they're looking at our DMs and then creating shitty movies based on, the conversations that we're having. But actually the big story here was that Facebook has for years been kind of leasing, and we all know this actually, but they've been kind of leasing your profile information to different people who purchase it, and then taking that profile information, big companies for voting will take your profile information to influence you. And so it's this exact point is you have a specific programming and that is being used to influence. And these companies know, the system knows, hey, if I just press in these points, it's going to influence. And they're claiming that this is how they did Brexit, is they influenced a whole bunch of people. This is how they are basically able to take a bunch of people since like 2016. They're like admitting, yeah, we've been doing this since 2016, where we will take your profile information and based on that, create, okay, how are we going to influence this group of people? How are we going to influence that group of people? Facebook's been doing this. Google's been doing this. We've talked about this before, but now it's coming out in lawsuits and it's becoming really clear. And then the other thing was just basically this, that LAPD thing that you sent, Cam, that was crazy.
It's so crazy.
Did you see that, Mitch?
I saw the headline, the illegal immigrants.
Oh, that,
yeah. The LAPD is hiring illegal immigrants to become police officers.
What could go wrong?
Well, I'm just looking at this and I'm like,
do they arrest themselves?
Right? Like
immediately day one of the job, they put the badge on. They're like, come with me, mister.
They're sitting in their cell and the administration comes in like, hey, what's going on?
What are you guys doing in here?
I got one.
I got my quota.
Right? It's so funny because literally
it shows the collapse of the system in yet another way. Right?
Exactly.
Go read about the fall of Rome. I have a bunch of books on it. It's like they started importing the barbarians from out here to do all the labor and all this shit. And the people, it's just like
it's happening.
Sorry, I didn't mean to equate immigrants with barbarians, but maybe you have a fucked up definition of the word barbarian.
Oh, facts. So it's crazy because I mean, we're seeing the destruction, like you're just saying, right? We're seeing the destruction of everything, and it's like my good friend Forrest Dump. You guys know Forrest Dump? Not Gump, Dump. It just seems like everything gets dumped on him all the time. Go ahead.
I'll tell you something later. It's more of like an inside thing, a joke.
Okay.
I'll tell you later.
So Forrest Dump, if you guys don't know him, he's this guy. He wanted to be a marketer. Like he had this dream that he was going to be a marketer. He was going to be a marketer, and he was going to market his own books. He was going to write his own books and market those. And he started doing the process, and he was like really getting into it. And then ChatGPT comes out, and then all these other like no names started producing these books that were written completely by ChatGPT and selling their books way better than he was selling his. And he was just like, all right, fuck this. I can't do that. I can't do that. So then he decided, I'm gonna make a car rental company. I'm gonna make my own car rental company. And like he starts like, going to the dealerships, buying cars. He's putting this all together. He's doing the deals. He's going into like millions into debt, right? And he's like, but it's all gonna be worth it because car rental companies make shit ton of money. And then Uber comes out and nobody wants to rent a car from him. He's like, fuck, okay, all right. You know what I can do? I've got a talent of like designing things. I can be a graphic designer. I can draw things. I can, take in what people want to create and I can put it on a page and really create that for them. And so I'm going to be a graphic designer. And then Midjourney comes out and he's like, that whole dream is lost. Anybody can nobody wants to buy from him anymore.
Does he want to become a programmer next?
Yeah. He tried to.
So he's in school doing his first year of university programming.
And he's like, this is fucking tough. There's no way, no one else is going to be able to take this from me, And so he learns computer programming, and then he finds out that ChatGPT can write code better than he can, and it's self-learning, so it can just feed back into itself, and write the code. And he's like, what? And there's Claude and all. So he's like, fuck this dream, fuck that. So then he's like, you know what? I'm a really creative person. I'll be a movie director. And he's like, I'll learn all the things about movie directing. And in fact, I'll become like somebody who's like great with lighting. I'll become somebody who's great with like photography. I'll become someone who's great at like writing scripts, all of it. And then Sora comes out and it's like, you could just literally write the idea of a movie and it'll create it. And even if you were like getting into like the animation, like Pixar or something like that, it does that even better than those guys.
And it sucks because his backup was to become an actor.
Right. But he's going to become an actor, but then there's the LM Labs, and he was going to be a voice
Sora,
actor.
you just, yeah.
And you don't even need that either. And it's sort of like, you could be like, well, he had it bad, but Tyler Perry had an $800 million studio he was going to create. And he had to shelf that because of this whole thing. Yeah, sure. But like this guy's whole life, Forrest Dump. I mean, he had his last thing. He's like, you know what? I'm going to just try one more thing. Just one more thing. I'm going to go into music production. I'm going to become.
Dude, because honestly, you've heard like the AI music stuff. Like it's not that good.
Right.
And you're like, there's no way it could do that.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Right. But then, hey, did you guys hear about this like new thing that recently came out? This
Sumo,
yeah, it's called like Suno.
Sumo Fighter?
No, not Sumo Fighter.
Not sumo wrestling.
Not Sumo. Suno. No,
Tsunami.
Suno. Have you heard of this?
I think Tsunami.
Man, I'd like to play you a clip.
Oh,
Cue Cameron.
Can you play one that like would definitely help me just see this point that like God is not something in a random ass book?
That's
okay. But before we do, let's just go into a little bit, okay? Because like it's a great story. If you could go into each one of those points and be like, what is all the stuff that goes into it? Because if anybody hasn't seen the Sora, you guys did Sora. I think I was at the chess thing with Max, but y'all talk about the Sora stuff. But you played some clips, right?
We played some clips, yeah.
And like, somebody can be like, well, it does like a 10-second clip. It's not going to be a movie. Like, if you
right, that's just stupid thinking.
that'd be like your friend like doesn't even know how to grill, like a grilled cheese sandwich, right? And then they come to you a week later and then they're like literally Gordon Ramsay and you're like, okay, but I mean, you don't have
one dish.
You don't have 12 Michelin stars already. And it's like, okay, but if I was able to get from here to there in a few weeks, where do you think I'll be in a year or 2 years or 10 years? Like, give me a fucking break. And are you thinking about your kid's future at all?
Right.
You know, it's like the person back then in the 50s who's like, oh no, I mean, you could just go to college, get a job, and you'll have a career and a pension. And like all the Gen Z is like, fuck you. Fuck you. Like you fucking boomers, right? Like they're like, what the hell? You destroyed you know. So it's like when you look at music, right? And I'm gonna share, like because like we've talked about some points, I don't know if on here necessarily, but you know, like people have released AI music. But when you dig into it, it's like, okay, all they did was they produced some really good sounding tracks and they cloned like Drake, not our Drake, like the other,
or the Weeknd, and like
they cloned their voices and they put it on there, and then you're like, dude, this AI music is crazy. And it's like, oh, actually, it's very like there's still a lot of human production in it, right? And you know, music itself is, and I know you love music too. Like it's kind of like, you know, when someone is into like wines and stuff, you know, and like they don't know, and I'm like, it tastes like fucking alcohol. It's like terrible. Like, you know, it just tastes like gross. But someone else is like, oh no, it has the fruity petals and the aroma of oak and all this shit. And you're like, oh, and it's got Tabasco. And I'm like, there's no fucking that's like the coffee we buy. Like, dude, I just drink coffee, but it says on there like chocolate, hazelnut, you know, this. I'm like, that's not in there. That's just their imagination.
Because Christine will have the coffee that we have, right? And she'll be like, I don't know, I don't really like this coffee. It kind of tastes like you know, like overripe fruit. Like it just like has that like kind of taste to it.
You look at the bag and you're like, wait.
It literally will say ripe fruit on the bag, and she's like, "What? I didn't even know this."
It's too ripe.
Or she'll be like, you know, it's got this like kind of like she'll tell me like these notes that she's tasting, and I'm like, "The fuck are you talking about?" She's like, "Can you taste this?" And I'm like, "Tastes like coffee." I don't know. Yeah, and she's like, "No, but it's got like a, I don't know, like a smoked flavor to it." It'll say on the bag like smoky, like, you know, whatever. And
it'll be like Asian pear fruit.
Yeah.
You know, like dark chocolate, and you're like, what?
She's got a really good palate for that. And I'm always like at a loss because I really like food, but I guess it's not in the coffee. I don't taste it in the coffee. But yeah, but like
right. So but like that's kind of how I am, and I know you are too, Drake, with music. Like, you know, you can hear the notes that people don't hear. Like they're like, oh, that's cool. Like they hear the stuff on the radio, and not everyone has that. Like I don't have it with wine. I don't have it with coffee. You know, honestly, growing up, like I didn't have it with visual art either. It wasn't until I took an art appreciation or art history class and the teacher taught us like how to actually look at the art where I started to be like, okay, there's a lot more to it than I realized, you know, but I still don't really have that particular vocabulary. So my point being, given that, with that understanding and that kind of like, you know, enjoyment of music, I was like, I really don't see that the music part will be done anytime soon. I didn't think it couldn't be done because I'm not naive. Like I wasn't one of those people like, oh, AI will never be able to write computer programs or something. And now you got like Jensen Huang from NVIDIA going, there's no point to learn to code. Like, because at a certain point, all coding will be done through just natural language. Doesn't mean not to understand how to think about solving problems in a computer-like way, in a computer type way. It's more just, you don't need to learn C++ because it's like I don't need to learn Aramaic. No one fucking speaks Aramaic anymore. There's no point.
I didn't even tell you about how Forrest Gump was like going to go into like working at a factory, and then now all these robots are coming out, and they just took their.
He's jobs. Like, I'll go work for Amazon.
Yeah, I'll go work for BMW, and like putting cars together. Like, no, you won't. No, you won't.
Damn, how you showed us that headline the other day? Was it 60,000 jobs so far this year?
Tech layoffs, yeah, just in the tech sector, 60,000 just so far this year,
yeah. So, okay.
So
let's get into
my point being like that. I really didn't think it would be able to produce anything that was worthwhile to listen to in its own. Like if you gave it to me, I'd be like, wow, like this is good music, and then you're like, that's AI, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
A lot of times with the AI images, you're like, come on, obviously that's
there's like
real.
A certain aesthetic to it. Yeah.
But if you go on the Midjourney showcase and you look at those images, I don't think you can.
Yeah.
The average person typing shit in and it's like, oh, look at this thing. Like a lot of times you can tell, not always, but sometimes there's like clues. But the stuff that you see on their showcase, I'm like, okay, yes, the average person who doesn't know anything about making art, they can make stuff way better than they ever could have made on their own, but you're not fooling me.
Yeah.
But you go onto their showcase and you're like, okay, you're fooling me. Or like the Sora. Okay, you're fooling me.
Yeah.
I guarantee you the average person who goes on to Sora when it's released, they're going to make stuff and you're like, okay, that's obviously not. But there's going to be like film people who know all the things and they're like,
dude,
use this kind of camera and this lighting and this staging and all this stuff. And you're going to be like, oh, that's not real.
Check this out. Because for, right now I shoot videos here and I don't have like a studio or anything. I just use my iPhone. Right. And I was wondering because I've seen, these commercials for shot on iPhone, right? And so I wanted to know, how do they get these really awesome commercials? So I look it up and there's an interview with one of the guys who was the director of photography, and he basically directed the shot on iPhone commercials. And they start talking and he's talking about it's really all about the lighting. I was a gaffer, I was this, I was that. And I'm like, I didn't know any of these fucking words, right? And he's like, so to get this quality, actually, what you need is, and they're showing everything outside of the iPhone. Yes, it's shot on the iPhone, sure, but everything outside is they have these lights here, and they zoom in this specific way and make this aperture and all this stuff, and it's holy shit! The average person is not doing that. Yes, you could technically film this on an iPhone. It was done on an iPhone. However, you're not doing that if you don't have that vocabulary, if you don't have that understanding. This guy worked on Fight Club. He worked on Top Gun. He worked on all these major productions.
He's just able to then eliminate all the people who got in the way of just getting his vision, because this one thing allows him with that vocabulary to do it. And it shows the point of vocabulary even more, because even with the AI to master it, it's just people typing words in. Yeah. And I remember in Midjourney when I discovered, not through myself, but through watching other people's okay, what are they prompting? And they'd be like shot on, Nikon 720 or with such and such aperture. And you're using all these technical words. And I'm like, oh, they're literally telling the AI to use this kind of camera, and this kind of film, and this kind of they're just not physically doing it. They're telling the AI to do it. I'm like, what? So they can have any camera at their disposal.
Yeah.
And then obviously as the model improves, it gets better able. So what they're doing is improving the ability for you to communicate more directly, more specifically with it. Right. Yeah. So there's this, so we'll get into the Suno point. So there's this program now called Suno.ai. It's like the Midjourney of music. It's the ChatGPT of music. And
I think it does it even better than those things.
Yes. And that's what I want to prove today. But
and can we talk about the points? Because you and I were having a conversation the day it came out, and we were talking about how different this is than just having a visual image, how different it is from the sense of it's sound, and when you see a visual image, you see it and you're like, oh, that's cool, that's great, right? But then when you hear something, it can get stuck in your head. It can be catchy.
Question. I sent you guys some music.
Yeah.
Okay, that we made with it.
Yeah.
Have you listened to it more than once?
Hell yeah.
Probably 10 times already, yeah.
How many times did you look at the Midjourney images I sent you?
Once, the one time that you sent it, and maybe I showed it to somebody.
3 times to show it to people, yeah.
I'm not every day looking at it oh yeah, that was so good.
No, but I'm going back to the song.
It becomes part of your life.
Every day.
So we already know that's how our reality works. On your Spotify, you have the stuff you like, and maybe you listen to new stuff, whatever. But I could be like, dude, me and you do that all the time, Drake. I'll be like, dude, check out this new weird track of this or that, or you'll send me something. That's how I got into jazz, and really developed my vocabulary of jazz, is you being like, hey, check this out. And I was like, oh, these are things I was not even aware of, right?
Yeah. I'm literally just making a playlist for Max, and you're like, I like this playlist.
It's sound has it's so interesting, because you would think the visual thing is so much more important, because we're very visually oriented. And I'm not saying it's not important, but the sound has a very big impact. You're not in a crowd and someone puts up a picture and everyone starts moving as one. You put on music with no visual, everyone starts moving as one. Yes. And how do we influence reality? Look at the pandemic. How did they get the world to move as one?
Sound.
With words.
Yeah.
Where was the pictures of all the dead people?
Yeah. Where was the pictures of all the viruses?
And I mean, think about it. George Floyd. Mm-hmm. Okay, cop has his knee on a black guy's neck. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's good, but in itself, why wasn't everyone yeah, another day, just another day in the world? is when he was saying "Mama, Mama,"
Yeah.
and everyone was
Yeah.
like, he was crying out for his mom, even though that wasn't true. Technically,
Yeah.
it was like his girlfriend that he called that or whatever. But there was like this, you know what I mean? You can
Yeah,
hear the person screaming.
Yes.
You can hear the. So I'm just making a point of like music is just a huge part of our
the inner
reality.
and the outer. It connects the inner and the outer, you know? I mean, how am I making sound? I'm using what's within me to get it out.
Yes.
If you ever want to blow your mind, dude, go watch a video, a close-up video of like the inside of your, like, I think it's called the epiglottis, right?
Yeah. And how it's like
the actual vocal cords and how
so
it's just going like this. And it's like, but when they slow it down and you're like, so all the sound I'm making, that's putting all these ideas in your brain and allowing me to, it's just that thing vibrating in the air like that. It looks almost pornographic, to be quite honest, right?
It does.
Like it was like alien porn, basically, is what it looks like, right? But it's like that's what we're doing when we're talking. And you want to talk about natural learning, but you teach your kids stuff by showing it, by telling them. And it's like you don't teach them by telling them. You didn't teach them how to do that.
Yeah.
You don't even know that was happening.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, so let me just see if there's any more context. Like,
just play the damn music.
Well, hold on, there was a point I was trying to make. So anyway, yeah, this whole thing is at another level already. And I guess that was, let me just give a little more context, because you sent me, what was it, like 4 or 5 days now?
Yeah.
Ago? I think it was on a Sunday, actually, maybe.
No, it wasn't on a Sunday. It was like either on a Monday or Tuesday.
Okay, so it was maybe a week ago, right?
Yeah.
And you sent me a clip from Wes Roth, who does a lot of videos on AI, right?
Yeah.
And so he's like showing this new thing called Suno, just like he does all kinds of videos on all kinds of things, right? And he's like, this thing is really interesting. And he's like, it can make music, and I'm listening to it. And he's showing some examples of him doing it. I watched another video of a guy like showing, here's some examples. And I was like, wow, these are a lot better than I would have even thought was possible at this stage, right?
First time I heard this, like, because it opens with, this is AI music, and like it's singing it. And I'm like, ooh, this, like, I immediately felt like this is good. Like there's something here. And then I watched the whole thing, and like I sent it to you midway through. I'm like, fuck, like Cam's gonna love this.
So I just want to give you my initial reaction, because as I play and we show some examples, there's a reason why I want to show so many different examples and so forth, which is the experience of using it and really going into it and playing with it. And not see, because the examples that I saw in that video sent me was like, oh, a cat riding a unicorn in space, and you're like, it can generate the lyrics, and the music is way better than I thought it could do, but I'm like, it seems gimmicky and it's cool, but like, but then you're like, okay, what if I wanted to make music that I actually like? Mm-hmm. Could it do that? Like the music I don't want to listen to the cat unicorn flying through space song.
Right.
It's crazy it can do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not interested in that. Like, so, because the AI guys, they aren't probably music people, right? And so we start playing with it, and then you start realizing how you prompt it, all that kind of stuff, to where, oh wait, like in Midjourney, where you could get the really silly pictures, but then you see these people making this shit where you're like, oh dude, this is like professional shit. Like this thing can actually do way more than it seems on the surface. And I really want to get that across, of not only the quality it can do, but the creativity that it can do. Yeah. To the point where if you sent me some of these things, and I mean, I can't play every example, but like some of these things that we were able to create, if you had sent it to me and I didn't know there was an AI, and let's say it wasn't AI, let's say it was actually just something created by a person, I'd be like, dude, this is really creative. Like I would be like, this is really cool. I'm interested in this. Who is this artist? I want to know more. Like it's able to create music that's very subtle. Like there's this one track, I don't know if I'll play it. Maybe I might have it on there. But there's this one track where it's like, do you guys know what acid house music is? It's like a specific type of electronic, right?
Play the music.
But, well, I will, but not everyone's going to have the context, right?
You're teasing too much.
That's how I do. Hey, well, actually, I don't want to go into sexual
stuff.
There is a method to the madness.
It's on previous podcasts if you want to hear
But that. Okay, but listen, I'm going to let you guys explode, but just, all right, almost there.
Yeah.
But there was this one electronic acid house track that I created. Well, I created it. All I did was type in some words.
Right.
It created it. But when I say I created, it's more from the perspective of, this wasn't something gave to me. Like I know the AI created it from what I said. It's not like I know someone doctored it. Okay. and it's like this very simple track with bass and drums and all that. And there's no melody except, you know what a tom is? Like in the drums, you have the hi-hats, the kick drum, you have the toms, which is like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
It's making the toms, it's modulating the pitch of the toms and creating this really subtle melody to where I'm like, if a producer had done that, I'd be like, wow, this is pretty creative. I love that technique that they created. And I'm like, this thing just fucking made this up.
When you sent that to me, I was in my car and I was listening to it and I'm hearing the drums all around me. And I'm like, fuck, this is so good. Cause like the drums are over here, then they're over here. And it's like, and it's so funny because I was telling somebody who is a music producer, I was just showing them the app yesterday. And I was like, hey, you're into music, right? He's like, yeah, check this out. And I'm like, this was done by AI. He's like, and his face just dropped, just completely just like, what? And I was like, yeah, this is all AI. And he's like, no. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, you know, the crazy thing is I was listening to this in the car and it was amazing. Like I'm playing it to you on my phone right now. But in the car, it's just, it sounds so much better. Like you couldn't even imagine. And he's like, that's crazy that you say that because when I learned to produce music, my mentors taught me the first thing that you want to do is play it in the car because the car will tell you how it actually sounds.
It's like car ready.
Yeah, exactly. It's car ready. That's the litmus test of like how it's going to sound on stage or in the club or whatever. If it sounds good in the car, you're good. If it sounds like crap in the car, you got to rework it. I'm like, dude, this sounds so good in the car. He's like, he was blown away. He was blown away. Can you please?
And I have even seen some people taking these. I'm looking at the people talking about on forums, and they're like, "Hey, I remastered this." You see what I mean? So you can still take and remaster it, but eventually, even the AI will be able to just. Because I was thinking about testing that out of like make it professional mastering and things like that. But a lot of these songs are already ready.
They're ready.
Yeah. Do you want me to just share the audio, or do you want me to share? Here's the prompts and the lyrics, so you can see that in real time while it's playing.
I think that'd be cool.
Okay. Okay. I was gonna say just share the audio.
Then everyone can sing along.
Yeah.
You know,
share the prompts because then it'll show something.
I think it'll be cool to show that there's something there.
Think about all the religions too, and how they use music in all their services. Right? There's like such a power to it,
dude.
Maybe I should play that one too.
Go ahead.
I'll do that one too. I'll do that one too.
Okay. It's funny because like, man. Okay. Yeah. Just go ahead. Play it. Go ahead. Like,
okay. So just real quick context. Here's what I typed in as the style, and then you can give it lyrics. You can also have it generate its own, but I wrote the lyrics. And so you're seeing just, this is literally what I typed in as the lyrics. Here's what I typed in as the style. That's it. Okay. That's all I did. I pushed the button. 30, 45 seconds later, this is what comes out. Nothing. See?
Maybe I might have to refresh it.
No, I had it turned off from earlier. Okay, here we go.
Do you really think you love me? Or do you really just love the way you feel? Are you really for real? Or are you just a feeling that comes and goes? Your love is just a wave that comes and goes. You don't even stop to question where it goes. When the energy dies, will you be there when it gets tough? Will you do what it takes? Will you stay or will you go? You'll let it go before. Will you stay or will you go? Will you know where you go?
Dude, the really cool thing is how it's like taking your lyrics and then like it's composing it in a way that like actually sounds good. It's not doing exactly.
Hear this part right here. That part of it creates a hook out of this.
Yeah, it's doing that right now.
I didn't tell it to do that. It made its own hook. That's crazy.
So this is like, I don't even like this kind of music, right?
Right.
But I can appreciate that this would be played on the radio. This would be played on the radio right now. Like, you don't have to do anything to this. And you know, we were talking with JJ, we were talking about like, okay, how much would it cost actually to produce music like this, to produce this exact song, and get an artist like Ariana Grande to sing it, like, because that sounds like a song she would sing, right? Like literally, you played that Ariana Grande song the other day. I didn't even know that was a real song. Like I'd never.
Like we were on a meeting. We played an actual Ariana Grande song.
Yeah.
Right.
I had no idea that was an actual. I thought that was AI. I seriously was like, oh, he's just fucking with me. I didn't know that was a real song, right? It sounds exactly like this. And so, okay.
The level to which it's produced and everything.
Yes.
And yeah.
So how much would it actually cost to do this? You got to think about when you're producing, you need studio time. You need audio engineers. You need somebody who's going to create this track, create the, like, all the beats and everything, and they're not getting paid just like some chump change, right? Then you got the artist themselves is writing the lyrics. How much time goes into that? How much time? Like literally, all you had to do was write these lyrics, put it into Suno, and literally it happens within a minute. You get a full song, just like that.
Okay, hold on. Not only do you get a full song, and I wasn't going to play this one, but I just for the sake of making this point, let me get back to my playlist for it. I'm just going to play a little bit of this one real quick because, okay, here we go. Where is it here? All right. Notice, is anything different about it? I mean, the title is different because I just renamed it after the fact because you can change the name of the song, right? Everything is exactly the same. In fact, it spit this out simultaneously with the one you just heard. Okay, so when I gave it this prompt and these lyrics, it gives you two things, kind of like Midjourney would give you 4 images and you can kind of go from there, right? Okay, so I'll just play a little bit of this one. Same everything that I gave it.
Do you really think you love me? Or do you really just love the way you feel? Are you really for real?
You know what's interesting about this is, so you got 2 vibes here that it gives you right off the bat. Completely different. This could be like the radio version, and then the other one could be the version that you get on tour, you know, or the other way around, you know, because they do that. Like you hear your song, you're like, oh, I love this song. This is the album version. Then there's the radio version. Then there's like when you go on tour, they have the live version. You're like, oh, this is so good. They changed these things. It gives you that already, right out the gate.
Okay, hold on. Let's say you're this artist, right? And you're like, you know, like remember Beyonce, right?
Yeah.
She went into all this, she's doing country now, right?
Right.
Check this out. Okay, hold on. Yeah, she's doing country music, right? Okay, so I'm not gonna play a country song, but let me just grab something else real quick.
If you play the 90s version?
That's what I was gonna,
okay, okay.
Of that song?
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
This is my point, is like, okay, you're this artist, you wrote these lyrics, and then you're like, I want to appeal to lots of different styles and people and so forth, right? I just gotta find
everyone in the comments is like, I love, like they're listening to it in their car, they love the beat, it's shaking their car, the bass, you know, like.
Yeah, somebody like Christine's just commenting to us like, now we don't have to worry about copyright and stuff.
Right.
Because I have a subscription, I commercially own these songs.
Crazy.
These are my songs. Like the law considers I created this. I own all this, the lyrics, the music, everything.
That is absolutely insane. That in itself would be like so much money. And so, this is the point. This is the point that I wanted to bring up. Go ahead, play that one. And
I'm not sure if this is the one I want.
It
doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, but yeah. Wait for the chorus. It's crazy.
This is literally something that I would have listened to as a kid in the car. Like legit, you can ask my mom. She's listening to the podcast right now. You can legit ask her. This is some things that we would listen to. Like, and,
hold on. I want 2 of them. Look.
Do you really think you love me?
Both are just as catchy. Goddamn.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Love the way you feel.
all of this.
Are you really?
And you notice how creative it is with the way it does the lyrics.
yeah, it changes the composition, everything.
Comes and goes, there you go. It's just the way that comes and goes. There you go. Your love
Okay,
is
so
just the
listening
way
to
that
this,
comes.
I'll make the point that I made to you the other day when you played this. It's like that would be the version that would come out originally in the 90s, and then the version that we listened to first is the remake of that song, just how it's happening right
Right,
now. Like
right,
they take
right.
all these 90s songs and they're remaking them.
Fast Car.
Yeah.
Remember, you know that song where it was like, you got a fast car, now you got a ticket anywhere. You know that song? And then like it's like some song from like the 90s by Tracy Chapman.
Okay.
Right? Some kind of like folky alternative rock song.
Yeah.
And then some country singer did it recently. I heard it in the grocery store, and I'm like, they literally took the same lyrics and it's a country song now.
Exactly. That's what they've been doing for the last, I don't know, like 5-10 years. It's just they take all this, like, all right, it's time to, I guess 90s are oldies now. Like take all the old songs, revamp them. They were good then. They'll be just as good now. And like kids listening to it now, like there's all these memes on Instagram where kids will be listening to the new version of the song, and then the parents will go, you don't know about this, and then they'll play the old version, and the kids are like, oh, okay, all right, you know. And what's the other thing that I was going to say? It's just, okay, this is the point. The record companies, the record labels, their whole thing, because I was just seeing Ice Cube did an interview. Ice Cube, you guys know him, right? Today Was a Good Day. That guy, right? He's in all the movies with all the people. He did Good Friday, all those movies. Okay. Ice Cube says that when he was making music at the start, that there would be producers would come in, there would be people that were sent from the record label who would be sitting in on the studio, and they would tell them, yeah, don't play this, play this instead. And it was all guiding them to make more violent music that glorified violence, glorified drug use, all that sort of stuff, because they wanted that to be pushed out to the public, because they wanted this vibe of, oh, yeah, violence is cool, drug use is cool, like being degenerate, essentially, because they know that would influence the masses. And while they were doing this, he's like, he realized years later that the same people that owned the record companies, the record labels, were the same people who own prisons. If you look at the top people in the record industry, they own these major private prisons as well. So they're actually creating for themselves a whole pipeline of customers for life. Hey, you like this music? Great, you'll buy it, sure. But we're not necessarily making the music so that you like it and enjoy it. We're making it so it will influence you, so that you become this like whole society of people, this whole generation of people who ends up being customers of ours for life. You don't even get a choice in it. Like the system is just going to put you right into our pockets, where you rent a room from us. That's basically what's happening. You're renting a room from them for the rest of your life, and the government is paying for it. The taxpayers pay for it. So you don't even have to worry about like, oh, this room's too expensive. No, don't worry about that. The taxpayers will pay for it, because you can't be trusted in society because of the music that we're influencing you with. Now, you take that and you think of how many artists that they've had pushback from, like, oh, this is such a great name. Like Michael Jackson, for instance. Michael Jackson would go and buy his own songs, and he owned, it was a crazy amount, like about 50% of Sony, I believe, 50% of like the actual rights to the songs.
Like their catalog, yeah.
Yeah, he owned that. And he could say like, well, basically he would get the royalties from all these songs. And if he didn't want to make a song, he could just say, I don't want to make that song. I'm not going to do it. And he had the star power to actually do that, right? And so what's interesting is what these record labels would do is they would go in with somebody who had drugs and manipulate, like this whole thing that we're seeing with Diddy coming out, you know, where they would manipulate people and keep them on drugs, keep them in a state where, or you could just even watch, there's, you know, those, what do they call those movies that are sort of like documentaries, but they're not documentaries, they're movies. You know what I'm talking about, Mitch? Like the
Nope.
Picto something, I don't know.
Like a biopic.
Biopic, there you go, thanks. So you can watch like the biopic of like Elvis or the biopic of like all these like famous artists from way back when.
Britney Spears.
Yeah, and they show you they're putting these people on drugs. And that was the whole thing, was like they keep them strung out so that they'll just continue performing. And like the artist is like, it's always this way. It's like the artist is like, I don't want to go on tour. I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to do this. And then like give them drugs and like, oh, but you need this. And they wreck their lives. So it's like, yeah, see, you got to make more money. And the only way to do that is if you go out and perform. What else are you going to do with your life? And they would
plus artists are already prone to being like, you know, you look at Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, these types, right? So some of them, they go too far with it, you know?
Exactly. How much of that was the influence of the record label saying like, you have to do this and pushing them on drugs and putting that lifestyle on them. And how many people are like, because of poverty conditions, this is why we're always talking about or so often bringing up the point of,
man, I wonder who runs like the actual drug trades in our world. Not the same people controlling social media. Probably not the same.
I don't know. It better not be.
Wait, like is social media sort of like a drug that's being pushed on society to keep us docile and like accepting the system?
Social media, social engineering. Let's not go too far. But
all right, but you want go ahead.
Hang on, I want to finish this point. It's like just this point of the poverty is a necessity of this system to continue the way that it is. Like the people at the top want poverty. Why? Because then they can take advantage of you in poverty. And they can say, hey, don't you want to do this? Somebody was telling me that somebody went out on the street and they were feigning to work for Diddy, or maybe they actually did work for Diddy, but they were making this point of just going out on the street and saying, hey, Diddy's going to give you an opportunity to be rich, famous, whatever. You're going to make all this money, blah, blah, blah. Or I'll pay you, but all you have to do is Diddy wants to have some sexual relations with you or whatever. And he was astounded by the amount of people that would say like, how much? Okay, yeah, I mean, I won't do that for that much, but I'm willing to do this. Why would anybody, like, you know?
Dude, I've known really talented people in music like years ago, and they would tell me stories like, you know, when they were kind of on the rise, like this one guy told me he went into this room, these like business people went out to lunch with him, everything, and then they invite him somewhere. He goes into this hotel room and there's like 5 naked women just like in the room, and they're like the tables, right? And so like they have a meeting like that, and then they're like, all right, we're gonna leave, you can do whatever you want.
Wow.
It's like
Xerxes. It was like, I'm out of here. He goes, they're probably recording me. You know what I mean? Like, this is, I know what's good. He knew kind of what was happening. I mean, and he was like a nobody that you wouldn't even know. Like, he wasn't some famous person, but he was really talented.
You know, that's interesting because,
which is probably why he's not famous now.
When I was a kid, I was really into music, singing. Like I was really good for my age singing, like where people would be like, hey, when is somebody going to put you in a studio? You know? And my dad, funny enough, worked for Interscope Records, and he was really well connected. Like, you name an artist that was famous in like the 90s or early 2000s, he knows them personally. Like, he's met with them. He's like they would recognize his name and recognize like, oh yeah, I know that guy. I used to work with him, etc. Right? And so when I was a little bit older, he told me, you know, I purposely did not introduce you to any connections that I had to do that thing. And he said part of the reason was because I'd seen what goes on in these back rooms, and I didn't want you to be involved with any of that. Like, it was really just like,
this is why we're always talking about how talented you are and so forth, right? Think about this, guys. And I'm kind of making a joke, but I'm serious all the same time. Like, they were like, okay, Drake #1's not working out. Where's our backup Drake? Because that's somebody who's probably their parents were willing him to put him in a certain place, and he was willing to do those things, and he was willing to go down that path.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Versus you're a person who's like within you at a deep level is like, no, I'm not going to go along with the way things are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So I guess I think I had wrapped up that point. Oh, this is it. No, let me hit it head on. Okay, so now the record label does not need you as an artist to create or anything. They don't need the engineers. They don't need any of it. They're like, listen, we'll hire an engineer maybe to like remaster the song, complete it, whatever. But we have all the ideas right now of the message that we want to get out. We're not going to have any pushback from any artist at all whatsoever, because we can just create the song. It sounds good already. We get somebody, we hire somebody maybe to be the face of this, or
perform it.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that what Taylor Swift is? I'm sure she's not writing in that music now.
Yeah, exactly. So we hire somebody to be the face of this, or go perform it, and they go on tour or whatever. And we just tell them, we made you, and we don't need you. We can dissolve you in any moment. We have all the rights to all the music. You will get nothing. You will not get paid. In fact, the only way you're going to get paid is if you go on tour, and we're paying you by the hour because we said so, because we can, because we just selected you at random because we felt like it. You're just lip syncing. You're not a real artist. Like, they don't need anybody. And they could just, okay, we're done with you. You don't want to go along with it, whatever, or you run your course. We just select a new artist, bring them up. They'll still play your records on the radio or whatever, and still get paid for it. Or even if they don't need to, they don't need you. But, okay, boom.
Right.
But
here's where I think things are going to go then, because that's still in the current time.
Yeah.
If you fast forward, right? Look at how much the idea of being an influencer and stuff has changed, where it's like anybody can become famous because you have an Instagram and you find a way to do it, right? You don't need the system to become famous. But I was talking about this with Katie, and I think really where things are going to move is to the point where celebrities are meaningless. Record labels are meaningless. Like, they can use this now while people are still like, oh, I can't create my own stuff. But imagine when AI gets to the point where you don't even have to push a button. It's already catered to you. I want to listen to something today. Give me, I'm feeling, you have to even tell it what you feel, because it already knows based on what it knows you. It's like, hey, today's a Wednesday. I know on Wednesdays they go to work and they want to hear this kind of stuff.
Or like, your mood has been going through this cycle. Like, okay, there are apps right now that will determine a woman where she's at in her cycle, right? And that does not use AI at all. That's just like, basically, hey, you've charted, you've done this, you've done that, and okay, you had your.
I think the politically correct term for women now is people with cycles.
Yeah, people with cycles. Cycling people, cyclists. There you go.
I want to show a couple more examples, because Katie's texting me. She's like, yeah, there's not even going to be artists anymore, because the real point is this, like, could you still be an artist and make your own stuff and do all that? Yes. Why would I listen to it? Why would anyone else listen to it?
Right.
Because what I'm about to show you is like this thing that we've kind of been playing a little bit examples, like, okay, that's a cool pop song. What else can it do? Right? Can it be creative? I'll show you a couple more examples. Like, this was one of the first ones I did, and we put it on a video, and I don't think a lot of people didn't realize yet what it was. I'll just play a little bit of this one. Where is it? Oh.
Country living, gotta keep my tractor running. Out here, simple living, gotta wake up and get things done. For a country man, because I'm a country man, I am a real damn man who just happens to give a damn.
Do you like the emotion?
Become a country man.
Woo!
Do you think this could be?
Do you playlist, right?
I can't share playlists. They don't have that option yet, but yeah, I could. Yeah. See, Mitch is like, yeah, dude, I want that fucking song.
Like,
I wrote those lyrics.
But think about it, man.
There is a little bit of nuance where if you kind of have to know how to write the lyrics for the genre you're going for, there's a little bit of that. But I think at a certain point, eventually, all of that will be completely automated and it'll just know you. And I don't want to spill the beans yet, but where this is all going. But do you think this could be used to manipulate people?
100%.
Right. Someone, you brought up the religion point earlier, right? Or someone in the comments did. Here's one for you guys.
Jesus.
Oh, by the way, Kanye West call me. I got something for you.
Jesus, 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 Jesus.
You can see the lyrics here that's written.
Jesus, 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 Jesus. That's his name. What? Yes. Yes. Yes.
What's crazy about this is not even what's crazy about this is that it's like, well, is that a real song? Is it AI? It's a wave form.
Yeah.
It's a sound. Like if you were to look at it, you would just see like a waveform.
Yeah.
And so the computer is not making music. That's AI. It is producing waveforms.
That's insane.
It doesn't know what Jesus is. It doesn't know what hip hop is. It doesn't know what any of these things are. It's through these words, the way this model has been trained, it's able to just produce a waveform. So it's not actually real music from the perspective of how you would normally create music. You see what I mean? And that's the reason I'm saying that is because there's no limit to it from that perspective. It's not limited to a human being trying to figure something out. When it knows how to know you as intimately as possible, it can create sounds that resonate with you.
Wow. That's
okay. What else can it do? Okay. I tried to make a Nirvana song for those of you. Oh, actually, do you want me to play that or the disco one?
I wanted you to play
just
them
go
both,
through all
play
of them,
play the Nirvana one first.
Okay, I'll play the Nirvana first. So I'll just click so you can see like what was written. Okay, this is all that was written. Here's the styles.
Turn it up.
So alone in my head, I don't know what to do with my life without you. Why have you forsaken me? There's no coming down from this low I'm feeling.
Dude, all of that.
Crazy.
All of that. Just like the guitar.
I'll explain something about this one after.
No
Yeah.
coming down from this low I'm feeling. There's no coming down from this low I'm feeling.
Okay, this part you're hearing now was generated after the first one.
Okay.
From this low I'm feeling. There's no coming down from this low I'm feeling.
This is a legit song. I played this for someone already, and they're like, dude, that's like the favorite type of music that I would listen to. Like,
So here's the point. The reason I put that point in there is like the way this particular thing works at the moment is you generate a thing and it'll cut off after 2 minutes, and then you can go and tell it continue the song from any point in that up to 2 minutes that it generated. And then you can add to the style, remove things, change things. You can change the lyrics completely. You can just make it instrumental from here on. and it'll give you continuations of the song. So this song, the reason it's over 2 minutes is because I had it continue and I had a bunch of different options and I kept playing with it. And then it came up with that sort of like, it just becomes more. That's where I added some things like, I don't know what I added exactly. It doesn't show all of that because this just shows what was on the original, right?
Yeah.
But just to show you some cool points about this one, when I was talking with Kate, I was like, I'm trying to make it do like sort of like a Nirvana song. I was like, like those guys like Kurt Cobain, the guy from Smashing Pumpkins, how when they sing, they'll do one voice. Yeah. And then like on another part, it'll be like a louder, it'll be like almost like a different singing style that they do. And they switch back and forth. So she looked it up and she's like, well, how do you describe that? And that's when we put quiet verse, loud chorus. So you start to realize there's vocabulary to it.
Right.
And here, let me go back and see, because what's interesting about it, I don't know if I have any examples here, but you can, oh no, there is one of them. Hold on. Where is that one? Here, I'll play this one next.
Yeah. This one is like
okay. So what's interesting about this one, it doesn't show up because it only shows you the style that you put in on the first part. If you have an extended second part, it just kind of ignores that part.
Yeah.
So it doesn't show it in the style, like doesn't add to what it was. But if I showed you just the part 2, it would show you what I changed about it. And in this one specifically, and you'll see about like maybe a minute 50 seconds, a minute 45 seconds, there's a shift from the first part to the second. It still sounds like the same song, but a new instrument comes in. And what I had done on the second part is I said, I said Nord keyboard, which is a very specific electronic instrument called a Nord. It's these red keyboards that you see people do them on stage. A lot of famous artists use them.
Yeah.
And on the second part, it put that instrument into the song, which is kind of blows my mind of how it even can know that that's what it is. Right. Just to show you, like, I mean, I hope these examples are getting the point across that like, this is not just like, oh, a little gimmicky thing. Like this is going to completely, maybe not today, but it is going to completely change the way people experience music, the way you interact with it, everything. Okay, I'll play this one.
Oh yeah.
Dude, the voices on this is insane. The way that they're like,
it's making that, you know?
Yes, wow. This is like an oldie. Like this is a legit
it
song.
Sounds like some underground rock music that I just discovered.
Exactly.
This is the second part.
That's like real music. That's it's real.
You know, it gets that part that's like why people really like music. It's like that sort. It's like that transcendent experience you're looking for. It is able to create that.
Play the O.
Okay.
That one. Yeah, just play that one real quick.
You're gonna love the lyrics. They're very complex on this one.
Let's go.
I think you gotta click the song.
Oh, I don't know what I was going on.
Yeah.
Like, tell me you wouldn't dance to this.
Right? Tell me you're not in
This is from the 90s, right? This is a song, remember, back on the radio in the 90s?
Right? Tell me there's not a commercial with this on it. You know? This comes on right after Robin Schultz. This is the music, that song that's like,
Yeah.
all right, let's see some of the other ones because we got limited time.
I'm gonna show you guys this part. How it transitions into the second part.
Feel the beat. Feel the
I mean,
Dude, so
how would
amazing.
you know that wasn't a quote real song?
So amazing. Hey, Cam, do you remember like a month or two, or I don't know how long ago it was, but I was telling you about like there's like a certain aesthetic too, because I was listening to something that they played a Beyonce clip, or like it was like a live Beyonce or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was telling you about how like, you know what's cool about this, or because I was listening to it and I got hyped from it, but it was like it was live and she's singing and you hear the whole crowd singing along, right? And I was like, what's cool about it is like what makes this person a star and all that is everybody knows the song and really everyone's going for the experience of singing along with each other, right?
Mm.
Of like having this moment of like, yeah, we all like you're into this too. Oh fuck yeah, right? And dude, you know what I'm seeing right now? It's like we have these really cool songs that we're like, hey, this is kind of like this, not kind of, but like we're making these with some of the from the perspective of the principles that we have, the value that we have. This could be like music that we'd actually enjoy, and it's actually instilling a not instilling, but it's a message you want to listen to, right? Rather than just like whatever you hear on the radio or whatever, right? And
Right. You can actually choose what you want to be programmed with.
Right.
In a certain sense.
Right. And I'm just sharing this from the perspective of like, okay, cool. We share this with, you know, we have these lists of songs for all of our people that are within our group and everything. And then when we do our events, we play these songs and it's like, I listen to this song too. Like, I love this song. Like, this is great. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
I'm just going to click through a couple of quick examples because just to show the full point, and then there's some points we want to explain before we wrap up.
Yeah.
But just like the level to which the creativity it has. Oh, do you like German opera?
Fucking love German opera.
Alles Leid und Schmerz und Stillest, in der doppelt edelt ist, doppelt mit Erquickung füllest. Ach, ich bin des Treibens müde.
That's crazy.
Just wait.
Was soll all der Schmerz und Los? Süßer Friede, komm, ach, komm in meine Brust.
And then this is just a continue a part of it.
Yeah. Dude, I could see
Right.
like, you know, the crowds that go and like watch, who's that really famous, the guy with the P, the opera singer.
Pavarotti.
Pavarotti. Yeah. I could see like, you know, those huge crowds that go to see Pavarotti perform and then them playing something like this. It's like that would exactly be what's going on.
I'll show you a couple examples. Okay, so I was like, okay, it can't do like jazz music.
Dude,
Oh yeah, it can do jazz music.
dude, okay. You own a coffee chain, a chain of coffee restaurants. Keep playing the music. Keep playing the music.
Okay.
You own a chain of coffee restaurants, right? And you've been having to pay for a subscription for each of your locations to have music being played in the restaurant. Guess what? Not anymore. No.
Coffee music for free.
Coffee music. Boom. Perfect. Like, seriously, isn't it?
Okay. This one might be kind of out there, but again, to kind of illustrate the creativity that it has, right?
Very electric, conductive, selective, abrasive, ununderstanding. The imprint has got you. At the surface, your mind bubbles and froths. What will you do with the time you have left? The time you have left. Alien child, what will you do?
This is some weird fucking like.
This is actually what Cam listens to. All that other shit, he was just showing you.
Yeah, that was just because this is the real stuff. The real stuff.
He was showing you can appreciate music, but this is what he actually listens to.
But look at. It's just a matter of how you prompt it.
Yeah.
So my point there is,
It's not just the poppy stuff.
it's not just the poppy stuff. Like this was like, if somebody had heard this, you'd be like, dude, this is some weird, like I don't even know what genre you call it of music, right? But people like that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
And
Alternative, like, yeah.
but my like experimental is what.
Yeah, experimental for sure. Yeah.
And like it can make stuff sound like it's a recording from the Beatles, like in some like hole in the wall joint without very good recording audio, and it sounds like it's some bootleg recording or something, right?
Yeah.
And
it can make it sound like it's on a record, like it's playing from a record. You know, where it has the little blips and everything.
So imagine this thing. Again, this is the evolution of the mind. It's really what this is. And the reason I wanted to show that last one is because it can do stuff that you won't even think of as music per se. And it'll eventually allow people to create or automatically create things that you would never even think of as music, but that somehow resonates with that person. Mm-hmm. Think about like, I don't even know, 1990, Dude. What porn was like.
Very different.
Versus what it is now, versus then what an AI could do with music and sound and porn animation. Was a
magazine. That's what you got for porn back then.
You see what I'm saying? And what it could do with
or a VHS tape, right?
So imagine like, and this is kind of because I like what you brought in of like, hey, as a group, we can have music that has the things that we actually stand by and we want to hear. And that's like with those love songs, you'll notice I was putting in stuff to like more like look at love self-honestly, like because you hear it on the radio.
Yeah.
It's one thing
about, like breaking up and bullshit. Yeah.
And like blaming the other person, you know. And so that was just an experiment to show like, hey, it actually creates a really good song with lyrics that make sense, right?
Yeah.
But to me, and I know you see this too, it's like this point with the music, it's not really surprising to me when you see Midjourney, okay, eventually they can do the realistic video. Mm-hmm. But now you've got the music part. And now all of these points can come together. And so imagine instead of they're even like, what does Netflix spend all their money on? Making new shows, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody has maybe a pilot, they fund that. Maybe they have their own studios as well. The whole Tyler Perry thing, right? He had an $800 million studio planned. I don't know why you need that much money just to like put on different dresses, but I mean, but it's like, oh, I don't need to go to Iceland.
Right.
I could just have it create a scene of Iceland and we can just do CGI, put the actors in there. They can already do that anyways with the scene that they filmed somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And what it really is, this is the path that we have to choose. And this is the point why it's like, it's so much fun sharing this stuff of like, hey, look at what it can do now. Look what the AI can do now. Remember we talked about I think last time, Microsoft and OpenAI are jointly working together on a $50 billion project called Project Stargate.
Yeah.
It's $50 billion is more than has ever been spent on any one particular project in human history on one thing. It's more than the space program in one particular, like sending people to the moon didn't cost that much. They want to create I don't even know exactly what it is because I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but it's some kind of, it's all the infrastructure from what they're saying publicly is to create the AGI.
Yeah.
So what is AGI from this perspective when you see, okay, you've got Midjourney, you've got ChatGPT, you've got Sora, you've got this thing now. And this is just version 3, by the way. And dude, before a week ago, did you even know about this?
No, right?
It's this good already. And I think we've proven that how fucking good this thing is. And we didn't even know about it until a week ago. It wasn't like Midjourney or a lot of these image generation, which we were talking about it years ago on the podcast.
Yeah.
Like DALL-E and some of these things. And ChatGPT.
And ChatGPT,
I didn't even remember talking about it because it was so insignificant, even though we could see where it's going. But then suddenly when it's amazing, everyone's like, wow, like this, no one has even heard of it yet. I'm like, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So that Alien Child song is really like, because that's a song that maybe you might even hear in a movie or in a television show, or like, you know how people will watch Adult Swim, you know, and it'll have like all the weird cartoons or
weird stuff.
Yeah. It'll have like a song like that in there, whether it's during one of the breaks or in the actual show itself. And it's like, I can see it. I can see it. Somebody's getting high in their basement on their couch or whatever. And they're just like, the alien, it's like speaking.
There's entire sections of the record store called Experimental, which is like weird shit that's all like that. Yeah.
But it actually feels good to them. You know what I mean? And I'm just putting this point because Christine just sent me a song from Suno, and it's the top song on Suno that says, AI took our jobs, right? AI took my job is the top song on Suno right now.
See, but what's so weird about the top songs on their charts? They're not good.
Oh, interesting.
And that's why I wanted to show this, because if you just go on there, you'll be like, it's kind of like the experience I had when I first watched that video you sent me. I was like, that's pretty cool. But then when I started playing with it with an understanding of like what makes music good, to a connoisseurish type person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the essence of it, what really makes it.
Yeah.
Because then you can discern like, oh wait, this is actually good. This is like, this is kind of, it's from one perspective scary.
Yeah.
That it can do that.
We really have to wrap up here, but
dude, I literally woke up with these songs stuck in my fucking head today. Like I couldn't stop. Like,
here, I want to wrap up with this point, and then obviously if you guys have other points you want to look at. But I had Katie bring me my copy of this, right?
Oh, nice.
So my second copy because I gave it the first one to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a very short book. I really highly suggest that you read this. Right. I'll just read the back of it. I'll read the back of it, which I don't think I've ever read before.
Yeah.
Lawrence had ordained that prime intellect, which was an AI he created, could not, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. But he had not realized how much harm his super intelligent creation could perceive, or what kind of action might be necessary to prevent it. Caroline has been pulled from her deathbed into a brave, new, immortal paradise where she can have anything she wants, except the sense that her life has meaning. Now these two souls are headed for a confrontation which will force them to weigh matters of life and death before a machine that can remake or destroy the entire universe. And I really suggest, because I read this book and Katie's read it too. We can see like this to me is like the next point in the puzzle of you have access to a machine that knows how to just touch the button inside of you that just makes you feel so good and you never want to leave. And then now add that to Sora, add virtual reality to it, add all your favorite cartoons and your friends in
you will not be able to escape. You will not be able to escape it. Like it will be all encompassing. Where
why is Microsoft spending $50 billion to create AGI? Is it because they want to help humanity? let's go back. Where did this all start? Like, I mean, not like in the beginning of history of the universe, but if you go back, the first point I can see of like this is Amazon.
Mhm.
The whole point of it was we're
Before
going to
that.
create.
Before that, Microsoft.
No, but I mean like an AI that's
Uh-huh.
like catering to you, that shows you that it's designed to give you exactly what you want, not to actually help you,
Mhm.
but so that you will keep coming back and you will keep coming back. And that's why
Okay.
people only buy shit from Amazon now.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I have a shop, I have to put it on Amazon, whether they're paying me adequately for what I'm doing or not. And so it's like, will this be the key point is, does your life have meaning? Because when I'm looking at this, you know, when I was younger, I had a lot of people had these kind of dreams of like, oh, I want to make music, I want to be an artist and so forth. And it's like, what's the point of that? What I could never, I could spend my whole life, and at the touch of a button, this thing can already do anything that I think you and I will both agree rivals can rival, if you do it right, 99.9% of all human artists in music. Like I'm talking Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart, The Resident, like every pop artist, Michael Jackson, like all these things. And you're like, well, okay, it's not quite that good yet. But I'm like, dude, I never heard of this thing and it's already this good. What happens next month, next year?
Right. 100%. Christine says they estimate 20 orders every second on Amazon. Okay. Imagine maybe for you yourself, you're a little bit too old. And I mean this seriously. You're a little bit too old, but the actual AI is not, all these technologies is not geared just to you. You have to remember, this is generations in the making, decades and decades, generations and generations. Like Martin Rothblatt was talking about this way back when, right? And so it's not geared towards you per se. They're not expecting this to happen right now, this instant, but we're seeing it's very freaking close, right? And it's going to happen whether it's to your kids, their kids, etc. And so what are you doing actually to prepare for that? Or are you just like these other people who are like, well, I'll be dead by that time, so it doesn't matter to me, you know?
The greatest minds on the planet are either trying to sacrifice red heifers to bring about the fucking coming of the Messiah, or they're trying to build giant supercomputers that, you know what prompting is, what I realized? It's a form of prayer. So the God is the AI, because I can't show you how many fucking iterations I had to go to get the best ones.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying every time it gives you something this good, but it can give you something this good. And what's addictive about it, because remember in that Wes Roth video, the guy was like, it's kind of addictive because you don't know when you're going to strike your rich. You don't know when it's going to give you that jackpot. It's the jackpot hijacking where it's like, you're praying and you're praying.
Dude, I literally felt
let me change my prayer. Yeah, let me change my prayer. Okay, finally. Oh, God finally answered my prayers. That's what this whole AI fucking race is all about. It's praying to God to give us miracles. These are miracles. It's like, holy shit, it just created this miracle for me. I can't explain it. How did it do it? So I could never have done that.
Let me hit this point of finishing this Forrest Dump story, right? Because it's like, okay, you could be like Forrest Dump and seeing all these things are being taken away around me. And you could be like, well, what's the point? Or, right, you can see, do you think the guy from Limitless, the main character in Limitless, right, that he's sitting there going like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do. No, he's like, oh, okay, this is happening. Here's the course of action we're going to take. I can synthesize all this and take the best course of action. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're creating for ourselves, for our children, for the next generation. That's what the next generation needs to be supported with. Otherwise, they will be fucked. They'll be fucked. And here's the big piece. We were talking about religion earlier. We were talking about like how people are just kind of going along with like what they think that this imaginary God wants or whatever, and it's really, they're just going along with what the system is wanting, right? Or creating, and they're creating that. But here's what needs to be realized is that we are the ones creating. And if we would all take that responsibility, if we would all see that, we could create all the things that everybody's looking to create. Everybody's trying to create. The heaven on earth, all that stuff, like entering the kingdom of God. We can actually create that for real here if we are self-aware, if we take self-responsibility, if we are self-honest, and we are willing to do the work. And that's what we're all about here. That's what we have. That's, you know, the what we're talking about with the Limitless, that's the tools that we have. Being able to rewrite your own programming for real. And it's going to be amazing, man. I can't wait to the event when we're playing all these songs and having a really good time and really just like getting into it.
Yeah.
Mitch, did you want to
best for all? It's
add
just,
anything else?
it's making it all best for all. That's what we're doing, but you got to go full on with it.
Yeah.
So we'll allow the AI to reinforce our message with a little short ditty. All right, let's see if we can sum it up. Let's see if we can sum it up.
There are only 3 words. I am God. These are the only words that matter. When you realize that you matter. When you realize that you are God, that I am God, and you know we are all we have. We are all we have.
The question is, are we going to serve the AI, or is the AI going to serve us, so that we can serve all life? And we have to take the responsibility. Because if we just allow everyone to separate God from us, as if he's going to save us, that's a projection we're doing. That's denying the responsibility that we have as creators. So we have to take that responsibility for ourselves, not in a point of arrogance, but in a point of humility of like, hey, this is an opportunity and we have to work together. We have to work together as a group with the same principles, because look around, no one else is doing it. Everyone else is in crazy la imagination land. We have to get back to physical reality and say, what does everybody actually need? And how do we create a system that's best for all, that serves us and serves all life? Right. So until then, I guess we'll leave it there for this one and see you on the next
Until
one.
then, you want to see how we create that? Come to the event. If you don't have your ticket already, get your ticket. Let's go. It's time to go. Let's have a great time and let's actually make that real life.
Let's go.
We got to go.
Let's do it.
See y'all next one.
Let's go.
Bye.